When everything is stripped away, is there still a reason to hope? We are about to watch Ruth journey from absolute ruin in Moab to redemption in Bethlehem. We will see how an outsider became the great-grandmother of King David, and how her survival mirrors our own struggle to find purpose in the ashes. We'll discover how every bitter detail was woven together for a greater purpose. Throughout this journey, you will see how a grieving widow's fearless statement of faith laid the foundation for the most profound love story ever told, eventually bringing forth Jesus Christ himself. Before we begin, if you are searching for these kinds of stories, please subscribe and like this video. Tell us in the comments where you are watching from, and if you too are looking for hope today. We are building a community of hope here. Let us begin. The sun beats down mercilessly on the dry, barren earth. Bethlehem, once the house of bread, is now empty and broken. Golden wheat fields have shriveled, looking like cracked skin draped over the hills. It hurts to see. A town named for abundance now holds nothing but dust and dying dreams. Elim stands at his door watching neighbors pack up their ruined lives. Some flee north toward Damascus. Others trek south hoping to find bread in Egypt. The brutal famine is in its third year, and hope is scarcer than grain. Inside, Naomi moves like a ghost through their home, counting the remaining sacks of grain. What should have lasted months will barely survive weeks. Her hands shake slightly as she measures out their tiny dinner. Their two young boys, Mahlon and Chilion, huddle quietly in the corner, their young faces wearing a heavy sadness no child should know. They once had plenty here. The father, IMC, owned rich, beautiful land, soil that once fed travelers heading to Jerusalem. Then the rain died. The ground turned to powder, and the water dried up completely. Now, every morning brings the same agonizing question. How much longer can we survive? The neighbors whisper about Moab. Rumors drift in from across the Jordan. They say rain still falls past the Dead Sea, that harvests are rich, and markets still overflow with bread and wine. But Moab is a foreign world, a place where people worship strange gods and speak a language that sounds like theirs but feels wrong. IMC walks to his border, touching the stones that marked his family's inheritance for generations. His grandfather placed these stones. His father guarded them. Now he wonders if he must abandon them forever. Leaving feels like betrayal, but starvation does not care about heritage. Their dinner is just thin broth and stale hard bread. Naomi measures it carefully, ensuring everyone gets their tiny equal share. The boys eat in silence, never complaining, though their empty bellies show in the way they scrape every last drop from their bowls. Afterward, they sit in the heavy quiet, listening to the wind through the cracked roof. IMC finally speaks the truth he has avoided for weeks. We cannot survive another season here. His voice cracks with the weight of failure. Moab offers what Bethlehem cannot: food, work, and a future. Naomi slowly nods her head. She already did the math and knows he is right. Their final scraps of grain might last 2 more months at best. Their livestock is starving despite rationed feed. Their neighbors are already gone, leaving behind empty houses and dead dreams. The decision is made not with loud words but with heavy silence. They will join the flood of refugees heading east. They must walk away from everything they know. Their place of worship, the familiar markets, their entire life. The graves where their ancestors sleep. They can only carry what fits on their backs into a dark tomorrow. Mahlon and Chilion listen with terrified hearts. A tiny spark of adventure stirs them, but the pain of leaving their friends and home hurts deeply. They have heard stories of Moab, tales of strange rituals and foreign gods, but also of green fields and flowing water. This drought has turned everyone into a wanderer. Across the land, families are making the same desperate choice. Many head to Egypt, walking the same paths Abraham took long ago. Others turn toward the sea, seeking work in Philistine cities. But some choose the road east to Moab, gambling on rumors of life across the Jordan. IMC spends his last night tracing the walls his father built, touching the solid wooden beams his grandfather carved with his own hands. Every corner of this house begs them to stay. But memory cannot feed a starving child or force seeds to grow in dust. Morning comes cold and gray over the hills of Judea. The rising sun brings no warmth, only exposing the absolute ruin around them. No birds sing, no insects buzz. Even the dry wind seems to carry the heavy scent of decay and dust. Now they must decide what to keep and what to abandon. Clothes, tools, cooking pots, the bare essentials for survival and family keepsakes, furniture and scrolls. The things that tell them who they are, but are too heavy for a long, blind journey. Naomi wraps her grandmother's silver bracelet in soft cloth, hiding it deep in her pack. IMC takes his father's best chisel, hoping his carpentry skills can earn bread in Moab. The boys pack their few toys carefully, taking only what they can carry on their own shoulders. Word spreads fast. The neighbors whisper that IMC's family is leaving. Friends come by to say goodbye, warning them of the dangers ahead. They speak of bandits waiting on the roads to the east. They tell us we will never belong in Moab. But when you are forced to leave everything, courage is all you have left. Famine strips away status. Rich or poor, we all face the same empty future. Priests and farmers pack the same meager bags. Merchants and shepherds walk the same dusty path, equals in this desperate search for meaning. Class means nothing when you are starving. Now, as darkness falls, we eat our final meal in the home of our ancestors. The familiar walls close in as if trying to hold us back. But morning demands we leave. Ready or not, our long exile to Moab begins, leaving our old lives in the dust. The eastern road stretches ahead like a fragile thread between two worlds. My husband, Elimelech, shoulders our pack, carrying the heavy weight of our survival on his back. I walk beside him, keeping my face steady to hide the terrifying doubt in my heart. Our boys follow close behind, too young to understand the grief of leaving, finding adventure in the hills as other desperate families join our march. The drought has made refugees of us all, drifting toward the unknown. We speak only in hushed, fearful whispers, trading rumors of what lies ahead and warning each other of hazards. At first, we walk through familiar country, passing the homes of our relatives, only to find the same hollow ruin everywhere. Empty barns, silent houses, and fields that should be green with spring harvest lying dead, choked with dust and stones. The dry earth tells us God has turned away, though no one dares say it. Our immediate fight is for water. Springs that once ran clear offer nothing but mud. The deep wells that sustained entire towns barely keep the remaining survivors alive. We must plan our steps carefully, walking from one trickling well to the next, praying each drop will sustain us on this long exile. My husband holds a worn leather map drawn by a traveler who survived this road before us, pointing the way toward the Jordan River, marking potential waterholes and warning of where bandits might hide. It offers a clear direction, but absolutely no promise of safety. By the second day, we reach the edge of the Jordan Valley. Below us, the river rushes wider and fiercer than we feared. It terrifies us. Water means survival, but crossing it means stepping into a completely alien world. Across that water lies Moab, a place of strange gods and unfamiliar ways. We camp tonight with other desperate families, sharing what little food we have and trading hopes of what lies ahead. An old man says his relatives found food and work there. A woman whispers about friends who crossed months ago and found kindness among the locals. But darker rumors haunt the firelight. Whispers of entire families who crossed over and simply vanished. Stories of deadly fevers that strike down travelers unused to the climate. Warnings about the Moabite people, They fear we will bring our misery to their door. The dark night drags on, filled with strange, unrecognizable cries drifting over the water. Voices speak in languages we do not know. My sons sleep fitfully, dreaming of strange faces and frightening faceless lands. Morning reveals our true obstacle. The Jordan is deep and wild, swollen with melted snow. There are no bridges here. No ferries wait to carry us across. We must brave a current that can sweep away anyone who loses their footing. Elimelech studies the rushing water, searching for a shallow path. Beside us, other families gather, frozen by the same fear. Some have ropes and heavy walking sticks. Others carry nothing but their few belongings and a desperate will to survive. We begin the crossing at mid-morning as the sun warms the air. My husband steps in first, carefully feeling for solid footing. The freezing water rises to his waist, then his chest, the heavy current tearing at his body. I follow right behind, clutching the rope tied to his waist. The ice-cold water steals my breath, but I force my legs forward. Behind me, our boys cling to each other, their faces pale with terror. Suddenly, in the deep water, young Chilion slips. The river sweeps him away. Elimelech dives forward, grabbing our son's hand, just as his head disappears under the white foam. For one breathless second, our family hangs on the edge of ruin, but we hold on to each other, refusing to let go. With his strong arms, Elimelech pulls him up. I urge them onward, keeping my voice calm. We push together toward the far bank. We drag ourselves onto the bank, shivering and exhausted, but alive. The ground here feels completely different under our feet. We did not just cross a river. We stepped into exile, leaving behind our homeland and our identity as citizens of a familiar land. Now the steep climb out of the valley tests us again. The path climbs sharply, our wet clothes dragging us down. But slowly the vast horizon begins to open up, revealing Moab. We expected a barren wasteland, but the land before us takes us by surprise. We see green valleys feeding herds and smoke rising from distant villages. Seeing such life after so much starvation brings tears to my eyes. Yet the deep foreignness of this place chills me. The buildings look completely wrong, made of unfamiliar stone that catches the light strangely. The distant figures wear foreign clothes. When everything is gone, does the future still hold meaning? Their hair is styled in strange, unsettling ways. As darkness falls, they have to decide where to spend their very first night in this foreign land. Sleeping alone in the wild feels dangerous, but begging strangers for shelter requires a courage they just don't have yet. The boys look to their parents for answers, but even Elimelech and Naomi seem lost on what to do next. Relief comes when they cross paths with other Hebrew families. A small group has set up camp near a freshwater spring, sharing what they have to find safety in numbers. Just seeing familiar faces and hearing the comforting sound of their own language brings the first real peace since leaving Bethlehem. They share their simple dinner with strangers, who instantly become brothers through shared suffering. Around the small fire, stories begin to flow, tales of what they lost, and quiet hopes for what lies ahead. The boys listen wide-eyed to descriptions of Moabite towns and customs, their young minds painting pictures of this new life. But as the embers die and foreign stars fill the sky, a heavy truth settles over them. They are not tourists on an adventure. They are refugees, driven from home by forces they couldn't control, clinging to the hope of starting over where nobody knows their names. The dark sounds of Moab echo around their camp. Owls call from strange trees, and water rushes over stones worn smooth by centuries of seasons they've never known. Tomorrow, they will push deeper into this alien land, carrying only their few belongings and a desperate, fragile hope that a new beginning is waiting for them somewhere. Life among strangers begins. The city of Kir Hareseth clings to a hillside high above the Arnon River. Its red stone walls give this land its unique bloody color. Here, Hebrew families gather in small, quiet pockets, creating neighborhoods that mimic home but still feel alien. The locals watch these new immigrants with quiet, guarded curiosity, not hostile, but not welcoming either. Elimelech throws himself into work, his skills as a carpenter crossing cultural barriers easily. Wood still needs, cutting houses still need fixing, and tools must be made, no matter what language the hands speak. Moabite merchants respect his honest labor and fair prices, though they keep their distance during business, offering cold politeness instead of the warm brotherhood he left behind. Every day brings linguistic struggles. The local dialect sounds like Hebrew, yet the words are different, turning simple questions into exhausting struggles. Asking directions takes wild gestures and endless patience. Yet the boys adapt fast, their sharp ears catching what their parents miss. Naomi builds a life in a tiny stone house. The rooms feel claustrophobic compared to the spacious home she lost. But the walls are sturdy, and the roof keeps out the rain. Slowly she learns to navigate the busy foreign markets, handling strange spices while searching for tastes of home. Slowly a new routine begins to take shape. Morning prayers are whispered behind closed doors. The Sabbath passes in silence without the joyful community feasts of the past. The boys attend makeshift schools with other refugee children fighting to keep the language and traditions of their ancestors alive. But survival requires bitter compromise. Elimelech takes jobs carving pieces for local pagan shrines. Naomi cooks with local herbs that twist the flavor of her mother's recipes. They stand quietly at festivals ruled by foreign gods, tolerated but never truly embraced. Yet the locals prove far more complex than they first thought. Some show genuine warmth, bringing food during those first hard weeks. Others keep a cold, deliberate distance, watching the newcomers as unwanted guests who should go back home. A few show open hostility, viewing them as competitors for scarce jobs. Fortunately, Elimelech's incredible skills slowly open doors. Locals hire him for furniture and tools, paying fairly and recommending his work. This steady income brings a peace they hadn't felt since the famine began. For once, they can look beyond their next meal. The boys bloom in this exile. Mahlon picks up the local tongue quickly, speaking with easy confidence, while Chilion makes friends with everyone. His bright smile easily bridges the gap between two different worlds. They explore the hills around Kir Hareseth, finding secret rivers and climbing trees that define this new childhood. Naomi struggles most. Her deep roots in Bethlehem took a lifetime to grow. Now she must build bonds from nothing with women who don't understand her grief or her way of life. The local women are polite but distant, including her in chores but never truly letting her in. Faith remains the deepest divide. The Moabites worship Chemosh with bloody rituals that deeply disturb her quiet Hebrew soul. Holy days honor gods they cannot bow to. Strange temple rites mock everything she was taught about sacred devotion. Yet they still find quiet ways to keep their fragile hope alive. We kept our sacred traditions alive in secret, shielding them from neighbors who might judge. We taught our children of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, helping them survive in this strange new home. Slowly the seasons turn through our very first year in Moab. Spring brought rain and green life. Summer gave us long, hard days of honest work. Autumn's harvest whispered that maybe, just maybe, this painful journey had been worth it. Winter came, but not the hollow hunger that drove us from Bethlehem. Slowly we built a life that almost felt normal. My husband IMC's workshop became a haven for other Hebrew men, where they spoke our native tongue and shared stolen news. My own home became a refuge for Hebrew women trading flour and whispering stories about the children we struggled to raise. My boys began to see Kia Hariseth as home instead of exile. They learned every dusty street, every secret trail threading through the foreign hills. They learned the rhythm of the local markets, the strange ways of our neighbors, and the unwritten rules of survival here. Moab was no longer just a temporary shelter. It had become their entire world. Yet a quiet grief ran beneath our new lives. My husband, IMC, still dreamed of Bethlehem's green hills, waking up with the scent of Judean cypress in his mind. I found myself weeping at a familiar song or a taste that recalled my mother's kitchen. The boys asked about the family we left behind, wondering if we would ever see our kin again. Rumors reached us from Bethlehem, brought by weary travelers crossing the Jordan. But the news was always conflicting. Some said the famine still raged. Others spoke of hope returning. We whispered in the dark, debating if we should go back. But the road was dangerous, and our empty home was too uncertain. Staying in Moab felt safer. Our Hebrew neighbors faced the same agonizing choices. A few families packed up and returned to Judah, unable to endure this exile. Others gave up on our ancestral lands entirely, building permanent houses here in Moab. Our community fractured between those who saw this exile as a temporary trial and those who surrendered to it. My husband, IMC, wanted to stay. His business had grown beyond his wildest dreams. Local Moabites sought his work, and he taught his trade to young men here. The labor fulfilled him, giving us a security we never knew in Bethlehem. Why risk everything again when we finally had peace? But I remained torn. I made friends with Moabitish women, yet those bonds lacked the depth of the lives I left behind. I joined their gatherings, but I always felt like a ghost watching from the edges. The pull of home was a constant ache, even if that home was gone forever. My boys adapted with the ease of youth, speaking both Hebrew and the local tongue, walking easily between our ancient faith and Moab's customs. They lived between two worlds, belonging fully to neither, yet finding value in both. They were the future of our exiled people, a generation defined by loss and survival. As our second year in Moab began, we had built a life that worked. We had shelter, food, friends, and a routine that gave us a sense of purpose. We had survived the agony of losing everything and gathered the broken pieces to build anew. But would this fragile life last, or would tragedy strike again? The seasons rolled on, and with them came the quiet, natural rhythm of young hearts finding love in unexpected places. My son Mahlon, now a man, with calloused hands and gentle eyes, first saw Ruth standing among the women at the well. She moved with grace, her dark hair shining in the sun as she drew water. Their very first meeting was a beautiful accident, a dropped water jar, a helping hand, and eyes meeting across the cultural divide. Ruth belonged to a respected Moabite home. Her father owned fertile lands by the Arnon River, and her mother was famous in Kir Haresth for weaving beautiful fabrics. Yet Ruth was different. She listened so intently whenever our people spoke of the homeland we had lost, asking quiet questions about our faith. The love between my Mahlon and Ruth grew slowly like dawn breaking over the eastern hills. They crossed paths at the market where she sold her mother's linens, and Mahlon delivered furniture built in his father's workshop. Their talks grew longer, moving past business to a deep, genuine sharing of their hopes and hidden dreams. Meanwhile, my Chilion fell for Orpah, a girl whose bright laughter rang like bells across the courtyard where the women ground grain. Orpah came from a humble but respected family. Her father tended sheep in the rugged hills southeast of our town, and her mother was known for welcoming weary strangers. Our people watched these budding romances with heavy, conflicted hearts. The elders whispered their fears about our sons marrying outside our faith, worried these foreign wives would lead them away from the God of our fathers. Yet others saw the bitter wisdom in it, a necessary bridge between two peoples who had to learn to live together. My husband IMC and I faced the age-old agony of all parents. We wanted our boys to be happy, yet we desperately needed them to hold fast to our heritage. These girls were kind and good, but they worshipped other gods and followed customs we did not know. This choice weighed heavily on our hearts, already so tired from the brutal struggles of exile. Moab's ways were not ours. They demanded long, formal engagements, careful negotiations between families, and rigid financial agreements before any vows could be made. This strange process feels entirely foreign to Hebrew traditions, yet it shows how deeply Moabites value marriage. At first, Ruth's family hesitates to give their daughter to a penniless Hebrew refugee. They worry about the social fallout. These foreign men have no permanent standing in Moab, no ancestral lands to inherit, no legacy to pass on, no family network to offer support. What kind of future could this marriage possibly offer their daughter? Yet Ruth faces these fears with rare maturity, speaking openly with her parents about her deep feelings for Mahlon. She has seen his kindness to the elderly, his devotion to his family, and his gentle way with children. To her, character matters far more than borders or beliefs. Meanwhile, Orpah faces her own family's doubts about Chilion. Her parents worry that these Hebrews are just passing through. What happens if the famine finally ends? What if the refugees return to Bethlehem? Will their daughter be forced to abandon everything she knows and follow her husband to a strange foreign land? The young couples face these anxieties with a quiet wisdom and patience far beyond their years. They understand that their marriages will bridge two worlds, peoples who have lived side by side without ever truly integrating. They accept the heavy weight of being first. Even IMC's feelings about these marriages begin to soften over time. At first he worries, like any Hebrew father, about losing his faith and culture. But as he watches Ruth and Orpah, he begins to see the timeless virtues of his own people's sacred scriptures shining in them. Their deep compassion, their tireless devotion, and their respect for elders, traits that cross any border. Naomi, too, grows fond of both girls, seeing them as daughters who could fill the painful void left when she abandoned her family in Bethlehem. Ruth's quiet strength even reminds her of her own mother, while Orpah's bright spirit brings a rare light into their home, lifting everyone's heavy hearts. The formal talks begin in early spring as the first rains bring life back to the hills of Kinsman-Redeemer. Both families gather to map out the practical details of joining their lives. They speak in a blend of Hebrew and Moabite, pausing constantly to translate and understand. Preparations stretch through the long summer. Moabite tradition demands grand celebrations lasting 7 full days, filled with feasts, joyful music, and dancing that sweeps up the whole village. The Hebrew families learned these new ways, blending their own sacred rituals into the joy. Throughout the engagement, Ruth and Orpah spend their days learning Hebrew ways from Naomi, who guides them into the sacred mysteries of their husband's heritage. They learn to cook traditional meals to honor ancient holy days, sharing the stories that shaped the men they love. Through this, a deep bond forms between the women, growing stronger daily. The double wedding arrives with the autumn harvest, when the fertile land offers a rich abundance for their celebration. All of Kinsman-Redeemer joins in as Moabites and Hebrews mingle in ways that seemed completely impossible when the refugees first arrived. The pure joy of the day builds bridges between cultures that once kept a cautious distance. Mahlon and Ruth exchange vows, blending both traditions beautifully. They promise to honor each other's pasts while building a fragile new future. Their joined hands show a commitment far deeper than simple romance. It offers a fragile hope that two different worlds can find common ground. Chilion and Orpah follow with their own vows, their radiant happiness shining in every look they share during the sacred ceremony. These young lovers seem completely unburdened by the weight of cultural divide, stepping blindly into tomorrow with nothing but pure optimism and genuine love. The feast carries on late into the night as traditional songs from both lands echo. Sacred Hebrew psalms mingle with lively Moabite folk melodies, weaving a beautiful harmony that echoes their new reality. Meanwhile, the children of both villages run and play together, their sweet laughter hinting at a hopeful future. As the night ends, IMC and Naomi quietly reflect on this unexpected new chapter. Just 2 years ago, they arrived here as desperate, broken refugees, carrying nothing but their few belongings and failing hopes. Now they are deeply rooted in this foreign land, blessed with 2 beautiful daughters-in-law, who bring not only profound joy, but a bridge to survival in the years ahead. The newlyweds set up their own homes, yet they stay close to both families. Ruth and Mahlon settle in a small home near Elimelech's workshop, where Ruth helps with the family trade while staying active in her community. Orpah and Chilion choose a home near the Hebrew quarter, where Orpah quickly becomes beloved by the refugee women. These marriages bring a profound peace to the community in Kia-Harest. Now the next generation has planted roots that cannot easily be torn away. The thought of returning to Bethlehem becomes far more complicated now. It is no longer about personal desire, but the welfare of Moabite wives who have tied their lives to Hebrew husbands. For the very first time since arriving, tomorrow feels stable rather than terrifyingly uncertain. The family has work homes, deep relationships, and loving marriages that anchor them here. The quiet peace settling over their lives feels like a divine gift after years of bitter grief and painful wandering. 3 graves in Moab. The sickness creeps in like a silent whisper, completely unnoticed, until it has settled deep within the bones. IMC wakes one morning with a relentless cough carrying a heavy exhaustion that no amount of sleep can cure. For weeks he labors through the pain, those skilled hands still shaping wood with his usual quiet precision. But his strength drains away like water from a shattered jar. Naomi brews old family remedies, desperate to find a cure. Local Moabite women bring forest roots and mountain herbs from the hills of Kir-Haraseth. But the relentless sickness consuming Elimelech defies every cure, pushing them closer to the brink of despair. As he fades, the illness only grows stronger. Yet their community rallies, the local men taking shifts to help. They keep Elimelech's workshop running, while neighbors bring meals, trying to ease the heavy burden of a failing life. The kindness is comforting, but we all see the signs of a fading life. This is when Ruth first shows her strength. She spends endless hours nursing her father-in-law, bringing him water and fixing his pillows. Her quiet presence brings a rare peace to his final painful days. Her steady care allows an exhausted Naomi to rest. Through this devotion, a deep, unbreakable bond begins to form between their houses. Orpah also does her part, taking over the daily chores that keep life moving forward, while everyone else focuses on nursing the dying patriarch. She cooks, tends the garden, and runs the house with a quiet efficiency that surprises everyone around her. Her warm spirit brings a sliver of light to these dark days. Still, Mahlon and Chilion struggle to watch their father wither away. They remember him as a strong man who worked tireless days and carried heavy loads. Now he can barely walk across the room without help. This cruel decline is impossible to accept, yet it marches on, completely ignoring their tears and prayers. Death comes quietly on a crisp autumn morning. Elimelech simply stops breathing while Naomi holds his hand. No grand final words, no dramatic exit, just a gentle release from this painful life into the great mystery. Soon, the family gathers around his empty bed. Their deep sorrow is mixed with relief that his agony is over. They bury him following Moabite customs, as Hebrew traditions are impossible here. Neighbors from all over Kir Hadeseth attend, both fellow refugees and locals who grew to respect the master craftsman. They lay him to rest in a foreign graveyard, his Hebrew name carved among Moabite letters. For Naomi, the sorrow goes far deeper than tears. She has lost her anchor in this strange land. He was the one who made their exile bearable, offering direction when every tomorrow felt completely blank. Now she must face the heavy silence of Moab alone. Left without his hand to guide them, the family struggles to find a new rhythm. In the coming months, Mahlon takes over the wood shop. His skills are decent, though he cannot yet match his father's mastery. Chilion helps manage the business while continuing his own hard labor in the fields. The young lives do their best to hold the shattered family together. But the very sickness that took Elimelech seems to linger in the air like a curse. That familiar hollow cough now starts to rattle Mahlon's chest. The same terrible exhaustion begins to drag down their eldest son. The pattern is cruelly familiar, and a cold dread wraps around the family. When everything you love is slipping away, how do you find the strength to hope Mahlon's decline is even faster? He fights the fever with all the strength of his youth, but the disease is utterly relentless. Ruth nurses her young husband with the same fierce love she showed to his father, but no amount of devotion can halt this incurable plague. The neighbors watch in horror as history repeats itself. The same choking cough, the same fading strength, the same grim, inevitable path. Some whisper of a family curse. Others blame a deadly sickness carried on the desert winds. It is clear they are facing a shadow they cannot fight. Then Chilion falls ill. The younger brother's fever rages even faster, burning through his remaining strength. It is as if the disease has learned to kill more efficiently. Orpah pours the same desperate, loving care into her husband that Ruth gives to Mahlon. Yet both young women can only watch helplessly as their husbands waste away. The winter passes in an agonizing blur of desperate prayers and mounting despair. They take shifts like guards at a prison gate. 2 dying sons, 2 weeping wives, keeping vigil, and a mother wandering between their homes, her hollow eyes showing she has already lost too much. Mahlon is the first to go, leaving them on a bitter morning when frost blankets the ground. He whispers his final words to Ruth, quiet expressions of love and gratitude that will echo in her heart for the rest of her days. This funeral comes so quickly that the dirt on the shovel has barely dried. Within a week, Chilion follows his brother into the dark, as if unable to bear being left behind. Orpah holds his hand as he takes his last breath, her tears pooling on his cold cheeks as she prays in both their languages. The double tragedy leaves the town speechless, unable to process such immense, concentrated grief. This second funeral is a nightmare on repeat. The same heavy prayers, the same haunting songs of mourning. Once more they walk that slow path to the graveyard, where 3 graves now scar the foreign earth. The crowd gathers, but all warmth is gone, replaced by stunned silence and terrified whispers. Naomi stands alone among the graves of her husband and sons. Her entire world is now reduced to 3 fresh mounds of dirt in a strange land. The woman who once ran a thriving, joyful home in Bethlehem is left with absolutely nothing but her broken heart and the clothes she wears. A tragedy this deep offers no comfort. Ruth and Orpah stand beside their mother-in-law, their hearts broken, their eyes searching the dark horizon for any sign of a future. They are young widows in a world with no safety net. The marriages that once built bridges between cultures now lie in ruins. Their community offers what help they can, but hope and resources are running dry. Grieving refugee families have nothing to spare for outsider widows. Yet the local Moabites still show them unexpected kindness. But marrying Hebrew men left Ruth and Orpah in a social limbo, complicating any return to their families. 3 fresh graves in Moab mark the end of one life and the painful start of another. A broken family, shattered by forces they couldn't control. These grieving women must now decide, do they try to rebuild on foreign soil or look for hope somewhere else? For these 3 widows, the question isn't just where to live, but who they'll become. When everything is gone, does life still have meaning? They are no longer the brides who once planned hopeful futures. They are survivors of a tragedy, stronger now, but deeply scarred, yet far more vulnerable. Winter settles over Kirhairs with brutal severity, as if the land itself mourns those 3 good men. Snow blankets the graves, wrapping the lonely cemetery in peace instead of sorrow. But beneath the quiet snow, the heavy question remains. What comes next for 3 women left completely alone? Then comes Naomi's decision to return. News arrives on a spring morning just as wildflowers bloom around Kirhairs. A traveling merchant brings word from Bethlehem, his weathered face lighting up as he describes how her abandoned home has changed. The famine is over. The rains have returned. Fields are green with grain, and the markets are full once more. Naomi holds the letter with shaking hands, reading words that feel like a dream. Her sister writes of rich, abundant harvests of families returning from exile and life going back to normal after years of hardship. Bethlehem is the house of bread once more, living up to its name for the first time in 10 years. The news stirs up hopes Naomi tried so hard to bury. Closing her eyes, she sees the green hills of Judah and remembers the sweet taste of water from her grandfather's well. She can almost feel the warm golden light over Bethlehem's fields at sunset. Home is calling, and the voice grows louder every day. But choosing to go back is a heavy choice. 3 graves still anchor her to this foreign Moabite soil. Her husband and sons lie in foreign dust, their bones mingled with the red clay of this alien land. Leaving feels like abandonment, a betrayal of those she loved. But staying means giving up on home, accepting this exile forever. Ruth and Orpah watch their mother-in-law struggle with a choice that will shape them all. They see her staring east toward the Jordan. They hear the softness in her voice when she speaks of Bethlehem. They know her heart is already gone, even if her feet are still here. Practical realities weigh heavily on all 3 of them. Naomi has nothing of value left here except a few basic household things. Her husband's workshop was sold to pay off debts from his final illness. Her sons' homes belong to their widows. But what future do empty houses offer childless women in a society that ignores them? Ruth's family is ready to welcome her back, promising to find her a good Moabite husband. They talk of her youth, her beauty, her skills, and how desirable she remains as a wife, despite her grief. Life in Moab offers security built on the familiar comfort of family. Orpah receives the same pressure from her own people. Her father mentions young suitors who have already asked about her, good men who can offer a comfortable home and children to heal her grief. It is a picture of warmth, belonging, and easy acceptance. And yet, both young widows hesitate to take this easy path. Marrying into a Hebrew family changed them deep inside, far beyond just being widows. They have learned new songs, eaten different foods, and kept holy days. They now see the world through Hebrew eyes, a perspective they cannot simply forget. Naomi watches her daughters-in-law struggle with these same deep questions, knowing her own choice will decide their future too. If she goes back to Bethlehem alone, she sets them free to rebuild at home. But if she asks them to come along, she invites them into the very exile she has endured for 10 years. The local Hebrew refugees offer conflicting advice. Some plead with Naomi to stay, warning her of the dangerous road and the harsh reality of returning to a changed land alone. Others urge her to go, insisting she will find true comfort among her own kin rather than in a foreign land. Her decision forms slowly, like ice on quiet winter waters. Naomi begins to speak more of Bethlehem, sharing old stories with her daughters-in-law and painting pictures of the beautiful places they would see. At first, these talks feel like a dream, but slowly they turn into real plans. She sells her belongings piece by piece, keeping only what she can carry on the long road ahead. It feels like dismantling her entire life, reducing 10 years of memories to a single bundle she must carry on her back. Every sold item reminds her of how little she actually gained in exile. Her neighbors prepare to say goodbye to a woman who became their anchor. Naomi's quiet wisdom has guided them through so many dark times. As she departs, we are left wondering if starting over in the ruins of the past can truly bring redemption. My daughters-in-law Ruth and Orpah quietly prepared, keeping their plans secret. They whispered to their families, testing if following a broken widow like me held any future. Those talks were brutal. You and I know that when life takes everything, finding a new path is terrifying. The Moabites watched us with mixed feelings. They had grown fond of this grieving Hebrew widow who somehow carried her losses with quiet dignity. My departure would break the fragile bridge between our cultures, leaving the remaining refugees even more isolated in their grief. Yet they understood the ache for home, that quiet pull back to the soil that once gave us purpose. As spring turned to summer, my preparations finalized. I set a date to face the unknown. I chose a season of safe roads and clear skies for our long walk. Deciding to move forward felt liberating yet utterly terrifying. It was like stepping off a cliff, hoping my empty hands would somehow catch the wind. My final weeks in Moab blurred into hasty farewells. Kind neighbors brought me parting gifts, wanting me to carry some beauty back to Judah. My fellow Hebrew women handed me precious letters to deliver to relatives who might have returned to Bethlehem. I was a thread connecting scattered lives, my own heart swinging between fragile hope and pure terror. The thought of seeing Bethlehem again filled me with a sudden, painful joy that I could barely hold. But the shame of returning as a destitute widow instead of the blessed wife who left haunted me. How would I find shelter? How would I survive or rebuild relationships with people who had probably forgotten my name during these 10 long years? I made one last visit to the graves of my husband and sons, whispering to the cold stones, begging my dead for permission to leave. I promised them that distance would never fade my love. Talking to their silent dust somehow gave me the strength to finally walk away. Ruth and Orpah kept packing, making choices that would strip away their old lives just as completely as their marriages once had. They knew that following me meant stepping into complete emptiness, choosing loyalty over the only safety they had ever known. It took a quiet courage that surprised us all. Then the final night arrived with terrifying speed. I lay in my empty house, surrounded by the echoes of 10 years of exile. Tomorrow I would start walking, carrying nothing but dust and desperate prayers. The hollow woman returning across the Jordan now was nothing like the desperate mother who fled eastward so long ago. The path of letting go. Dawn broke cold and gray as the three of us gathered at the city gates. Our small bundles held every piece of our shattered lives. Grief had aged me deeply, but my face was set like flint. Ruth and Orpah stood beside me, their youth making their choice to leave everything behind look beautiful, yet incredibly foolish. The dusty road stretched west toward the Jordan, the same path I walked 10 years ago when hunger chased my family from Bethlehem. This walk felt different. You and I know how hard it is to return home with empty hands, though what waited there was a total mystery. Other Hebrew families had also started moving, and the road showed signs of heavy travel, deep cart ruts, cold ash from old campfires, and worn paths leading off toward hidden waterholes. The Great Return had begun, reversing our tragic exile. We walked the first few hours in heavy, painful silence. Each of us was swallowed by our own thoughts, wondering if this dusty road would lead us to life or ruin. I wondered if my sister would welcome me with joy or cold awkwardness after all these years. Beside me, the girls stared into a misty, faceless future. The rolling green hills of Moab rolled past us one last time, a bitter reminder of what we were leaving. Its cold mountain streams and shaded groves had sheltered us when we had nothing else left. Moab had been kind to us foreigners, giving us shelter, food, and a community when we were completely broken. Yet with every step west, the green hills began to feel like a fading dream. My daughters-in-law were abandoning their families, their childhoods, and the graves of the young men they had loved and lost. I could see the crushing weight of that sacrifice in their eyes. Their resolve was starting to crumble under the sheer scale of their loss. The road descended into the baking heat of the Jordan Valley. By midday, the relentless sun forced us to stop. We collapsed under the shadow of a massive rock, seeking refuge near a thin stream of cool water. We shared our meager bread and water, staring silently at the endless burning path ahead of us. And there, suspended between our dead past and an empty future, my resolve finally shattered. Looking at these young women who gave up everything for a bitter, broken widow, I saw how selfish I was being. They deserved a future, not a lifetime of being despised outsiders in my homeland. My voice choked as I spoke. I told them to turn back, to return to their mothers and rebuild their shattered lives where they belonged. They needed new marriages. What future could an empty widow like me offer them? What hope could I give? When life leaves you empty, you and I know how hard tomorrow feels. When you lose everything, the path forward blurs. Ruth and Orpah exchange glances, then look to Naomi, searching for hope. They try to understand why she is pushing them away now. Pragmatically, her warning makes sense. There is nothing left for them. But when you have already lost so much, another goodbye feels unbearable. Still, Naomi gently paints pictures of a safer life back home. Orpah has suitors waiting. Ruth's family speaks of a cousin interested in her ever since her husband died, offering a chance to start over. They could choose comfort and survival, leaving behind the terrifying emptiness of an unknown future with an aging widow. Yet logic cannot dissolve bonds forged in the deep fires of shared grief and survival. They had become far more than mere daughters-in-law to her. They were the daughters she never had, partners who truly lived her pain and helped her carry a burden far too heavy for one soul. This parting feels like yet another death to a family already stripped of everything. Under the hot sun, they argue. Naomi pleads with them to go back while they desperately cling to the hope of staying by her side. They speak of love and loyalty, debts of the heart that defy reason. They remind her how she comforted them through their husbands' agonizing deaths, how she guided them into her world, and the maternal love that filled their broken, widowed hearts. Still, Naomi's harsh, realistic words slowly begin to sink in, especially for Orpah. She begins to see the truth. She is still young enough to reclaim a future, to rebuild what was lost. She can still find a husband and step back into the security of her own people, leaving this grief behind. A predictable future looks beautiful compared to the terrifying void of Bethlehem. Her resolve begins to erode slowly, wearing away like stone, until suddenly the cliff collapses. Orpah's determination falters, giving way to the harsh reality of survival. She surrenders to Naomi's logic. She will return to her father's house, choosing safety over a shadow of hope. She will marry again and rebuild her life on familiar ground instead of a foreign wilderness. And just like that, The moment of parting is here. Orpah stands, tears streaming down her face, but her mind made up. She holds Naomi tight, clinging to their shared past one last time. Whisperings of love and gratitude fill the air, words that will echo long after she is gone. She thanks Naomi for every kindness, for the love they shared in their brief, tragic time together. But saying goodbye to Ruth is an even deeper wound. They were sisters in marriage and sisters in loss, walking together through the ashes of their old lives. Now they must choose different paths into the unknown. They hold each other for what feels like hours, knowing this is likely the end. Orpah walks away without looking back, her silhouette fading on the dusty road home. Her departure changes everything. Ruth is now Naomi's sole companion, stepping into the void on the road to Bethlehem. Choosing to press forward means so much more now that Ruth fully understands the cost. Yet Naomi turns all her grief-fueled logic on this final daughter. She uses Orpah's exit to plead for common sense. She begs Ruth to follow that path to safety. She urges her to go back to her family, her gods, and her old life. Why throw away her youth? Why sacrifice her future for an empty, broken woman who has nothing left to offer but hardship? But then Ruth answers with words that will stand as some of the most beautiful ever spoken, turning a dusty, desperate stop beside a Moabite stream into sacred ground where human devotion meets divine hope. What she says next will shape not just their immediate survival, but the eternal legacy of their bond. As the sun sinks behind the western ridges, these two broken souls stand facing each other beside the water. One is hardened by a life stripped of hope. The other is young, fiercely believing in a future. She is willing to step into the dark for a love that knows no borders. Her choice in this moment will echo through generations, showing us that even when we lose everything, choosing devotion over convenience is where our meaning begins. Ruth's promise pours from her heart like a hidden spring, turning this quiet, desperate moment into something sacred and timeless. Standing before Naomi, her young face glows with a fierce resolve from deep within, ready to speak the vow that will echo through every heart that has ever lost everything and searched for meaning. Do not urge me to leave you or turn back. Her voice is quiet but steady. The foreign accent of her youth has softened over the years, yet her message is unmistakably clear. Her words rise above language, speaking directly to the human soul. Naomi can only listen in absolute stunned silence. As this young widow, who owes her absolutely nothing in this world, willingly binds her life to hers. Naomi spent the entire afternoon detailing the grim reality of poverty and loneliness waiting for them in Bethlehem, trying to spare her from even more suffering. Yet Ruth looks at that empty future and embraces it, finding meaning in love alone. Where you go, I will go. Where you stay, I will stay. It sounds like poetry, but it is a solemn covenant. She is not offering empty sentiment, but a promise to rebuild a life from the ashes together. She steps into Naomi's absolute loss, her poverty, and the threat of rejection. Ahead, the Jordan River flows a liquid boundary between ruin and an uncertain hope. It divides past grief from future hope. You and I see how easily she could turn back. She could go home to safety and an easy life. Instead, she chooses to step west, willingly, entering a future where she will always be branded as a lonely outsider. A foreign woman, forever marked by her accent and customs. Yet, she whispers those famous words, "Your people will be my people, and your God, my God." This goes far beyond survival. It is a profound surrender, moving past mere loyalty to find meaning in a total spiritual rebirth. She sheds her identity and her homeland, choosing to worship the God of Israel rather than Kish and the familiar deities of her childhood. This choice is a radical rupture. The old rituals of her homeland clash completely with the sole God of the Hebrews she now claims. By choosing Naomi's God, Ruth accepts permanent exile from the spiritual community that shaped her from her very first breath. She walks away from the sacred festivals of her youth, adding one final crushing vow. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. This absolute finality leaves Naomi breathless. This is no temporary favor designed to last only until the storm passes. She binds her entire future, even her final resting place, to the dusty road Naomi has chosen to walk. She will rest in foreign soil beside her mother-in-law when this long journey ends. She seals her vow with an oath, inviting divine wrath if she ever breaks her word. May the Lord deal with me ever so severely if even death separates you and me. She begs Naomi's God to break her if she wavers, tying her soul to a sacred oath that can never be undone. Naomi stands speechless before such fierce devotion. She had offered cold logic, painting a brutally honest picture of the misery ahead. She urged Ruth to choose safety over sentiment. Yet she is met with a love that defies logic, choosing loyalty over comfort and devotion over self-preservation. This single moment transforms them both. Ruth discovers a bottomless depth of devotion within herself that she never knew existed. She never planned to make such a declaration when this journey began. These words pour from a raw depth of feeling she never knew she possessed. They reveal a spirit forged by loss into something beautifully resilient. Suddenly, Naomi realizes she has received a gift she could never deserve. This young immigrant chooses to tie her destiny to a bitter, broken widow who has absolutely nothing to offer but hardship and uncertainty. The love Ruth offers feels like a reflection of the divine, a grace that cannot be earned or explained, only received with silent wonder. The spiritual weight of Ruth's choice ripples far beyond this dusty road. Her decision to worship the God of Israel shows us that divine love crosses all borders, welcoming any aching heart, regardless of where they began. Her acceptance into this community suggests that meaning is not found in bloodlines, but in choosing faith over familiar safety. While the beauty of her words has echoed down through history, their true power comes from the sheer weight of her commitment, not poetic style. These are not empty promises, born of fleeting emotion, but deliberate vows that will guide her through the dark. Instantly, the harsh reality of her choice begins to set in. She has burned every bridge back to her comfortable past. Her family will mourn her as if she were dead, knowing they may never see her again. Any hope of a secure marriage in Harris is gone forever. Now her survival hangs on whatever mercy she can find in Bethlehem. Yet in this absolute surrender of her fate, she somehow finds quiet peace instead of terror. By choosing to stand by Naomi, no matter what she discovers, the strange freedom that comes from total surrender, she no longer needs to calculate risks or weigh alternatives. Her path is set, and she can walk forward without looking back. Naomi's silence reveals how love can soften a heart hardened by years of tragedy and grief. This bitter woman who begged her daughters to leave is suddenly overwhelmed by the staggering gift of Ruth's devotion. The cold, logical walls of her self-protection melt away in the warmth of selfless love. They turn westward with a deep, silent understanding of their bond. They are no longer just two widows bound by dead husbands. They have chosen to become life companions, tied by vows that transcend duty or law. This commitment has forged a new kind of family, built on love instead of blood. The road ahead feels less terrifying now that they walk it by choice rather than bitter circumstance. Ruth's devotion gives Naomi strength to face Bethlehem, while Naomi's acceptance assures Ruth that her sacrifice has a deeper meaning. Side by side, they are ready to face whatever comes from building a new life on pure, unwavering loyalty. The evening shadows stretched long as they walked toward the river, yet the coming night feels far less terrifying now. Ruth has chosen her path with open eyes, Naomi has embraced a companion she never expected to find. They step forward into a completely unknown future, comforted by the simple truth that whatever comes, they will face it together. Their silent strength reminds us that even a dusty road can become sacred when human love mirrors the divine. This vow will live on forever for anyone trying to find meaning in loss, proving that the ultimate power lies in choosing sacrifice over simple survival. As we enter Bethlehem, the stone walls rise like a promise. But after so much loss, do promises even matter? I see them first. The familiar outlines of home that haunted my dreams during 10 years of exile. The sight stops me in the dusty road. My hand reaches out, gripping Ruth's shoulder as painful memories flood back. This town looks so much smaller than I remembered, a ghost of my past. Its old walls are weathered by the very rains that ended the famine. Life returned to these fields, but not to me. Yet nothing has truly changed. The houses still climb the hillside in terraces, and narrow streets wind between the same ancient stones. The central well still gathers women to share news. Beside me, Ruth studies her new home, her eyes wide with wonder at a world completely foreign to her. She stares at the flat roofs, built to catch water so different from Moab. These sturdy walls were made to survive harsh burning summers, much like we must now. The crowd wears clothes with patterns Ruth has never seen, their movements strange to her. They speak in Hebrew accents she understands but finds foreign. We arrive just as the barley harvest begins, a time of plenty. The bustling streets hide two devastated, grieving women slipping through the gate. All around us, workers carry heavy bundles of grain to the threshing floors. Merchants argue over prices. Children run between the homes, laughing, completely untouched by sorrow. Their joy blends with the noise of trade, but we cannot hide. In a town this small, two women traveling alone, without husbands or sons, draw immediate suspicious stares. Eyes follow us. These streets feel agonizingly familiar to me, yet to Ruth, they are completely new and deeply terrifying. Slowly, whispers of recognition begin to spread through the crowd. An old woman at the well stops to stare blankly at my face, searching her memories to reconcile the happy woman she knew with this ghost. Others crowd around, their voices rising in shock and disbelief. Could this really be Naomi? The question echoes with doubt. 10 years ago, I left this place as the proud wife of a wealthy man full of hope for the future. Now I return, broken by grief, dressed in rags, my face deeply lined by the sheer weight of my suffering. I hear my name whispered with certainty. They recognize my face, though tragedy has rewritten every single feature of who I once was. I brace myself, preparing for the questions I dreaded all along. How do I explain that my husband and sons are gone forever? How do I explain the foreign girl beside me? The crowd swells as news of our return spreads quickly. Women rush from their homes, leaving their chores behind to see a living ghost. Men stop their trading just to stare at us. Their faces show cautious curiosity. Children push to the front, eager to watch a tragedy that will be talked about for generations. Ruth quietly steps behind me, knowing she is only a witness to this painful collision with my past life. She scans the crowd, reading their expressions. Some look warm, but many others stare with cold, suspicious calculation. She knows they will judge her worth by what she can offer. What value does a penniless Moabite widow have to these farmers? I find my voice and speak to the crowd, the words tearing from my throat with raw, unchecked pain. "Do not call me Naomi," I announce, for that means sweet. "Call me Mara instead, because my soul is deeply bitter. The Almighty has made my life bitter." My raw confession shocks them into silence. They still remember me as blessed and happy. Hearing me reject my own name for one of pure suffering humbles them. They realize my tragedy is far deeper than their simple excitement can touch. I keep speaking, my voice hardening as I lay bare the heavy truth that has burned in my chest throughout this long journey. I went away full, but the Lord has brought me back empty. Why call me sweet when the Almighty has crushed my life? My words hang heavily in the air, thick with a deep, consuming grief that no polite words can possibly comfort. They finally understand. This is no happy reunion. I am a broken woman, shattered by losses they can barely comprehend. Their excitement fades into a quiet, heavy sympathy as they see my pain. Then Ruth steps forward, drawing their attention to her for the first time. They whisper, taking in her foreign Moabite clothes and her unfamiliar accent. When she speaks, they wonder who she is to me and why she came here. I introduce her simply as my daughter-in-law, the widow of my son Mahlon. I do not explain her foreign origins, nor the incredible, desperate choice that brought a Moabite widow to live among our people. The crowd nods with tense, reserved politeness, unsure of what to make of this stranger. The excitement fades, replaced by hard, practical questions. Where will I live? How will we survive on our own? What place do I have in a world that moved on without me for 10 years? I honestly do not have the answers. A few old friends step forward, remembering who I used to be. They offer us food and a place to rest for the night. They offer shelter until we can build a life-giving basic necessities to two broken women who own nothing but the clothes on our backs. Ruth watches everything intently, starting to grasp the fragile social rules that will now dictate our survival in this new land. She sees their pity mixed with caution, a guarded generosity that measures every grain of hope. The locals will help Naomi out of old community duty, yet when everything is stripped away, they remain deeply uneasy about their duties to her foreign daughter-in-law. As the afternoon drags on, people gather in small circles. Their tragic stories begin to spill out slowly. They speak of the brutal road from Moab, the sudden deaths that stripped them bare, and their faint hopes of rebuilding in Bethlehem. Every whisper shapes how the town views their tragedy. Ruth stays quiet through it all, choosing instead to watch and wonder if life still has meaning here. She hears unfamiliar names and old memories that mean absolutely nothing to her yet. They speak of Naomi's past in a fast Hebrew dialect she barely understands, leaving her feeling like an outsider in a strange new world. Still, she catches enough to follow along. But as evening falls, real hunger sets in. The initial excitement fades into cold reality. Where will they sleep? What will they eat? A few families offer a place to rest. Naomi accepts shelter from her closest relative, a woman with a large home whose husband owns prosperous barley fields south of town. As the sun dips below the western hills, they walk through streets that feel deeply familiar to Naomi, but completely alien to Ruth. The long walk from Moab is finally over, but their search for a place to truly belong is only just beginning. Ruth looks back at the eastern hills hiding her past. Behind her lies everything she once held dear, her family, her home, her old life. She left behind every comfort and certainty, yet she chose to march forward, desperately hoping that a meaningful future waits for her somewhere ahead. She hopes her loyalty to Naomi will lead to a new home. Soon, she must glean the fields. Dawn breaks over Bethlehem in a flood of summer light, painting the rolling hills in endless golden fields of ripe grain. The barley harvest is in full swing. Harvesters move in unison, their sickles catching the morning sun as they clear the heavy stalks. Ruth wakes up in their cramped temporary room. Her mind instantly turns to the brutal daily question of survival. How will they eat? They have no money, no land, and no food. Neighborly kindness got them through the first night, but charity cannot last forever. Handouts quickly turn from a blessing into a heavy burden. But Ruth remembers whispers from the town well about a desperate practice called gleaning the fields. Under Hebrew law, farmers must leave the edges of their crops unharvested so the poor and the foreign can gather what remains. It is a lifeline for the desperate, an ancient law tracing all the way back to Moses himself. It shows God cares for the vulnerable. Landowners are forbidden from clearing the very corners of their fields. They cannot go back for dropped grain, nor can they strip their vineyards entirely bare for profit. They must leave food for those without land. Ruth knows this means hours of backbreaking labor under a scorching, unforgiving sun. She will have to fight other starving people for a few scraps of grain. But when everything is gone, do we sit and starve, or do we fight? Her youth gives her a strength Naomi simply no longer has. Someone has to step out into the fields, and she is the only one who can. Over a tiny breakfast of borrowed bread, she shares her plan with Naomi. Naomi looks at her with a heavy heart, torn between deep gratitude and worry. She fears what could happen to a young immigrant woman working alone among male strangers, and she hates that they have fallen this low. But empty stomachs leave no room for pride. Gleaning is their only real shot at surviving on their own terms, without begging for handouts. Naomi blesses the plan and gives her some vital advice on where to go. She names the safest fields and the fairest landowners. Ruth heads out while the morning air is still cool and fresh. She joins a quiet crowd of desperate souls walking toward the outskirts. Among them are widows, orphans, and the forgotten. Old men with no one left, and tired mothers with crying children. When life strips everything away, hunger binds you together in the corners of a stranger's field. The massive scale of the harvest is stunning. Crews of harvesters sweep through the golden grain with effortless, practiced speed. They slice the stalks, tie them into heavy bundles, and load them onto carts bound for the nearby threshing floors. Seeing such endless food is overwhelming after months of surviving on tiny rationed crumbs. She nervously walks up to the field manager, an older man with a sun-beaten face and sharp, watchful eyes. He grants her permission with a silent nod, pointing toward the dusty edges of the field where the poor have already gathered. There is no warmth in his gaze, just cold, legal compliance. Soon she realizes the work is far more brutal than she expected. As the sun climbs high, the open field turns into a scorching furnace, testing her resolve with every passing minute. Her back screams from bending down, and her hands bleed from grabbing the razor-sharp stalks of barley. Her water jar runs dry in the heat. Yet she pushes on, fueled by a fierce strength she never knew she possessed. Each handful of grain means keeping Naomi alive. It is a tiny, hard-won stand against pity, a claim on their own future dignity. Her small pile of grain grows, piece by piece. Around her, other desperate souls struggle to find their own scraps of survival. The regulars move with ease, knowing exactly where the workers dropped the most grain. They spot every single missed stalk. Around her, others are just as lost, struggling with the crushing labor and the unspoken rules of a world they do not know. By mid-morning, the landowner rides through his fields, overseeing the abundance that feels so far out of her reach. She hears the workers greeting him with genuine warmth. It is clear this master rules with a kindness she hasn't felt in a long time. He seems to value fairness, treating even the lowest with dignity. She keeps her head low as he passes, trying to stay invisible, yet praying he is as good as they say. As an outsider, she has no rights, and her Moabite blood makes her survival even more fragile in this strange land. Standing out means risking cruelty she cannot bear. But when you have lost everything, sometimes destiny forces you into the light anyway. His eyes find her among the poor, drawn by her foreign dress, or perhaps the quiet, tireless way she clings to her labor. She hears him whispering to his foreman, their quiet words lost to the wind, leaving her to wonder what her future holds. but their frequent glances mean they are talking about her. Soon the foreman walks over during the heat of the day. It is the midday rest when exhausted workers seek shade and simple bread. His approach is firm, yet surprisingly polite. He asks who she is and why she is here. Softly, she speaks of Naomi and their shared grief. She tells of her painful journey from Moab and her desperate search for food. Word reaches the master, who watches her with a deep, silent curiosity. Is it pity, suspicion, or anger? She cannot tell. She simply keeps working, trying to ignore the eyes on her. She is just thankful to gather what is left, praying her hard work earns her the chance to return tomorrow. As the blazing midday sun halts the exhausting labor, the workers gather to eat. She sits completely alone, clutching her meager handfuls of barley. It is a pitifully small amount compared to the massive harvest around her, barely enough for a few meals. Yet, when you have nothing left, even a tiny spark of hope is enough to fight despair. She prepares to walk back to the village for the mandatory afternoon rest, escaping the heat that threatens to crush her. The burning sun drives even the strongest laborers into the shade. Her broken body aches deeply from the relentless morning work. Her water is nearly gone, just a few warm drops left for the long walk. But as she reaches down to scoop up her heavy bundle, heavy footsteps crunch on the dry stalks. The wealthy master himself is walking toward her, drawing the gaze of everyone nearby. The field goes silent as the workers stop to watch. Her heart hammers in her chest as she stands to face him. Does he mean to banish her? To accuse her? But when he finally speaks, his voice holds a softness she never expected. He does not demand to know why she is stealing from his land. Instead, he speaks with a deep, sincere grace that cuts through her fear. She stands frozen, completely speechless. When life has been so cruel, how do you even respond to an unexpected act of mercy? What happens next will alter her destiny forever. But in this quiet moment, she is just a widow standing in a dusty field, a broken immigrant facing a powerful master, wondering if this dark chapter of her life might actually lead to a brighter tomorrow. The small bundle of barley in her arms is no longer just food. It is proof that a higher hand is quietly guiding her steps. It shows that even in a harsh world, justice and mercy can still prevail. She has gathered far more than mere grain today. She has planted the first seeds of faith, realizing her future might actually hold joy again. Under the scorching sun, these two souls stand facing each other across the barren field. Their brief words will echo through generations to come. The quiet wheels of fate are turning, showing us that our pain is never wasted. An unseen hand is weaving a beautiful story of redemption, transforming this desperate struggle into a holy, life-giving moment. Now Boaz enters her dark world. Dawn breaks, bathing Bethlehem in gold as the rich harvest stretches across the beautiful hills. Laborers glide through the tall stalks, their quiet songs rising like a prayer into the crisp morning breeze. This is the beautiful season of restoration, when the earth finally gives back what the cold winter took away. In these fertile lands stands a man of immense honor. He walks with the quiet peace of a man who lives with integrity. He is a pillar of strength, his presence radiating safety. His hands are calloused from years of toil, but his heart remains soft. Wealth has only deepened his capacity to care for the broken. As the sun paints the fields in amber light, he stops to look his servants in the eye, asking about their struggles and families. He knows their quiet burdens, who has a sick child who is starving, to feed elderly parents. It is not show, it is genuine empathy. True care is woven into his very soul. His people do not serve him out of fear, but because his quiet kindness has earned their deepest loyalty. In the blistering heat, he makes sure they are refreshed. When the burden is heavy, he rolls up his sleeves and carries it too. He pours out his blessings onto those who helped him reap them. Though he inherited his wealth, he has grown it through wisdom and tireless patience. He knows the sacred rhythm of life, of soil and sky. He understands when to sow, when to wait, and when to let the weary land heal. His peace comes from matching the rhythm of the Creator. As the morning unfolds, his eyes catch something different among the desperate gatherers. A lone woman working with fierce dedication, her movements filled with quiet dignity. She keeps her head bowed, refusing to let despair stop her. Her ragged clothes scream stranger, yet she carries herself with quiet grace. He watches her, amazed that someone who has lost so much can still work with such hope. How she treats the others with respect, moving with a quiet, unbroken strength. Something about her draws his eyes, a mystery he cannot yet name. Boaz questions his trusted foreman, who has served his family for decades. Their brief talk changes everything. Who is she? Where did she come from? The truth holds more weight than he expected. This is Ruth, the Moabite foreigner, who chose loyalty over her own safety, who abandoned everything she knew to protect Naomi. Whispers of her fierce devotion already echo through Bethlehem. The town watches with both curiosity and deep respect. Standing in his vast fields watching this grieving outsider toil under the hot sun, Boaz feels a sudden shift. He knows the quiet pull of a higher purpose when he sees it. Her arrival on his land is no accident. A deeper, invisible current is moving slowly, weaving her broken past into a future he cannot yet comprehend. The harvesters keep cutting the grain, while desperate gleaners follow behind picking up scraps. Yet Boaz finds himself watching only her, drawn to her quiet grace and the pure dignity she keeps despite having absolutely nothing. He has seen countless gleaners over the years, some bitter, others frantic, but Ruth labors with a steady, quiet resolve. She knows this humble toil is her only path back to survival. When life takes everything, do we still dare to find meaning? Today, Boaz makes a choice that will forever reshape both of their destinies. He refuses to just stand by. He will act with his usual kindness, but this time, something far more profound is stirring deep within his chest. Under the rising sun, the first threads of a new beginning start to weave a story of hope and redemption. Grace has found her in the dirt. Ruth pauses to wipe the sweat from her forehead, her back aching from the heat. The small bundle of grain in her arms is painfully modest, yet it represents hours of exhausting work. She has quickly learned the basic rules of survival here. Walk behind the harvesters collecting whatever they drop. Never cross into the forbidden rows belonging only to the master. It is humbling work where every single stalk of grain is bought with sweat and patience. Her fingers are raw and bleeding from the sharp barley, but she refuses to complain. This painful labor is her only way to feed Naomi without begging. A tall shadow stretches over her path. She looks up to find a prominent man approaching, and fear instantly grips her heart. Did she cross some unseen line? Did she steal what was not hers? But his face shows no anger. Instead, his eyes hold a surprising warmth. His voice is soft, but carries authority, seasoned with a strange kindness. "My daughter," he says, and the gentle address takes her completely by surprise. She braced for harsh words or cold rejection. Instead, he speaks as if she belongs, as if her life still holds value in this world. His words wash over her dry soul like rain on parched earth. He tells her not to wander into any other fields, but to stay safe with his workers. He has ordered his men not to lay a hand on her, and she is free to drink from his water jars whenever she thirsts. Her mind reels at this unexpected mercy. She had prepared herself only for cold tolerance, expecting brutal rejection. This grace feels impossible. Why would a powerful lord show such favor to a penniless, foreign widow? Overwhelmed by gratitude and deep confusion, she drops to her knees. She bows low, pressing her face to the dirt in a gesture of utter humility. "Why have I found such favor in your eyes?" she asks. "I am only a foreigner." Her question lingers in the space between them. She cannot comprehend why she is being spared. Back in Moab, perhaps she could expect kindness as a neighbor, but here, as an unwanted outsider, she has absolutely no claim to mercy. Boaz's reply shows the true depth of his soul. He knows her story, not just the rumors, but the pain beneath them. He knows she left her homeland and her gods to protect Naomi, understanding the massive weight of her sacrifice and the immense courage it took to face a blank, terrifying future. His words show her a beauty in her actions she never saw herself. He honors her devotion to Naomi and her bravery in moving among strangers. He sees noble sacrifice in choices that to her simply felt like survival. But he offers more than praise. He offers a blessing. He prays the Lord will reward her, shielding her under the wings of the divine. This is no empty blessing. It is a promise of belonging, a whisper that her broken life might still have a future. She absorbs his words like a prisoner stepping into the warm sun. The blessing sparks a tiny flame of hope she had nearly given up on. Maybe her sacrifice was about more than just avoiding starvation. Maybe, just maybe, it was the start of a completely new life. At lunchtime, Boaz invites her to sit with him in the harvesters. This simple gesture changes everything. She is no longer an outcast scraping by on the edges. She is treated as a guest. He shares his roasted grain with her, the very food his own workers eat. When she is full, he lets her keep the leftovers rather than taking them back. It is another quiet grace, showing the depth of his generosity. As she returns to the dusty field, Boaz pulls his workers aside. He gives them a strange, highly deliberate command. They must drop clean grain on purpose for her. They are to pull fat stalks straight from the bundles and leave them in her path, turning her desperate struggle into beautiful abundance. She works until evening, completely unaware of the conspiracy of kindness helping her. She only knows her bundle is growing far heavier than she ever dared hope. By sunset, she has gathered almost a full basket of barley. It is enough food to keep Naomi and herself fed for days. Packing up her haul, her heart is overwhelmed. This day brought far more than physical food. It brought back her dignity, her hope, and a spark of a future she cannot yet name. When you lose everything, can you still believe in a future? Through a kind stranger, she has finally seen the face of a God who never truly abandoned her. The walk back to Bethlehem feels lighter now. When life takes everything from you, can a simple bundle of grain carry the weight of a new beginning? She found favor with a stranger who owed her nothing. In that grace, you start to see that even a shattered life can find its purpose. Stories of Boaz's goodness and Ruth's hard work race through the dusty streets. By dusk, a whole town of grieving people hears about this incredible harvest. At the well, women talk in hushed, hopeful tones. How did a penniless Moabite widow return home with more grain than others gather in an entire week? Naomi's trembling hands touch the barley. Having lost everything she never expected to hold, such proof that life could provide for them again. This overflowing abundance is more than survival. It is intentional, deep kindness. Her eyes, still sharp despite her age, recognize grain from rich, blessed fields. And when Ruth whispers the name Boaz, Naomi's face transforms. A dormant hope suddenly flickers back to life. The cold bitterness that had locked up her heart for so long begins to break. In its place, a quiet wonder. She knows that name. She knows the man. Naomi stops sorting the grain as old memories rush back. Boaz is a close relative, a kinsman to her late husband, not a stranger but close family blood, a connection that carries ancient duties and the whisper of a future. Perhaps the wheels of destiny are still turning. Even when she felt completely abandoned, heaven was quietly working. She tells Ruth about this man sketching a portrait of a soul filled with profound, rare integrity. Boaz's life is defined by wisdom and justice, not just his riches. When conflict hits the town, people look to him for truth. When the broken seek help, his door is open. In times of abundant harvest, he makes sure that the blessings flow to those with nothing. He inherited a legacy of virtue, but chose to build something even greater. On a foundation of absolute integrity, he fashioned a life of deep, active mercy. His wealth flows from fairness. His power in the community is anchored in an unwavering, honest character. The youth look up to him as a true leader, while the elders see him as the living promise of their deepest traditions. He is highly sought after, yet he remains alone. Perhaps he is waiting for a connection that goes deeper than status or wealth. Ruth listens in quiet awe. The landowner who spared her from starvation isn't just powerful, he is genuinely, profoundly good. His mercy wasn't a random gesture, but his true nature. Slowly, she realizes that meeting him might be the key to rebuilding their shattered lives. When dawn breaks, Ruth returns to the barley fields. She no longer walks as a begging outcast, searching for forgotten crumbs. She goes as one recognized by an honorable man. The shift in her fate is clear in her stride. She holds her head high, walking with steady confidence. Boaz feels a quiet relief when he sees her. He spent the night wondering if she would ever return, hoping his kindness hadn't scared her away. Seeing her glide through the grain with that same calm grace, an intense warmth floods his chest. It catches him completely off guard. Day by day, she shows her true strength through quiet persistence. She is there at first light before the dew even dries. She braves the burning midday sun, pausing only for a quick drink. She gleans until twilight, determined to make every single moment count. The reapers take notice of her relentless focus. They watch how carefully she handles each ear of barley, refusing to waste a single grain. She works without a word of complaint, offering respect to everyone. Slowly, their wariness of this foreign woman melts into deep admiration. Boaz's respect grows as he watches her. He has seen countless gleaners, but Ruth is different. She treats this grueling, lowly labor as something truly sacred. She gathers each stalk as if 2 lives depend on it, and they do. He starts inventing reasons to wander over to her section of the fields. Not to spy on her work, but simply to bask in the silent, profound strength she brings to the harvest. Her presence brings an unexpected peace to his structured life. Soon the other harvesters notice how the master's eyes constantly seek out this Moabite widow. Some whisper that a quiet love is growing alongside the barley. Others simply notice their master has found a new joy, smiling more as he walks his land. Ruth stays completely focused on her survival, yet she cannot ignore how often he is nearby. She watches him guide his workers with calm strength, making sure the daily harvest goes on without a hitch. She sees how his quiet words command respect without any anger. Slowly, a pattern forms. Her daily struggle for survival blends perfectly into the rhythm of his fields. Her presence, once shocking, now feels completely natural. The other outcasts begin to look up to her, relying on her quiet wisdom. She becomes a steady anchor for the poorest in the fields. But as the barley harvest nears its end, a quiet tension grows. Both of them begin to live for these daily meetings. They speak of simple tasks, but their lingering conversations hint at a deeper bond forming. They talk about the weather and the crops, but underneath the currents of 2 lonely hearts are shifting. The town watches this unlikely bond grow, a powerful protector, and a foreign widow. Two lives that never should have crossed, yet together they make beautiful sense. Each holds what the other lacks, pointing to a quiet, divine plan working behind the scenes of their grief. Naomi conceives a daring plan. As the harvest ends, a familiar dread returns. Soon the fields will be empty, and their fragile security will vanish. After the final wheat is gathered, the fields will go silent. What will happen to the young woman who gave up everything to save her? Naomi sits in their dark doorway, watching Ruth sort the grain. Her daughter's hands are swift and confident now, shaped by hard survival. She has mastered separating the grain from the chaff, but when the fields go bare, will this hard-won skill be enough to save them? When life takes everything, we still look for a way out. Naomi calculates her options, knowing Ruth's future remains completely uncertain. She is young and strong, yet she is a grieving foreign widow. In a world offering her nothing, her survival options are painfully small. We watch for any sign of hope. Naomi sees how Boaz tracks Ruth's movements, his eyes following her across the dusty fields. He seeks her out, his generosity showing a deeper care. Slowly, Ruth starts to find comfort and safety in his unexpected presence. Hearing Ruth speak his name with warmth, Naomi conceives a plan. When you have nothing left to lose, even extreme risks look like hope. Naomi has survived enough tragedy to recognize true attraction. She knows that sometimes, when life has taken everything love needs, a desperate hand to guide it. Ancient laws offer a fragile path. The custom of the Kinsman-Redeemer promises a shred of hope to widows who have lost their entire world. But redemption demands fierce courage and perfect timing. Naomi finally sees how their broken lives might still fit together. Naomi waits until Ruth finally finishes her work. As the cool evening air brings the scent of fresh harvest and distant cooking fires, they sit together in the quiet doorway. In this quiet moment, Naomi speaks. "My daughter," she begins, her voice heavy with the wisdom of a survivor who still cares. "Should I not find a safe place for you so your life can have meaning again?" she asks, seeking a future from the ruins. Ruth looks up from her work, instantly startled by the heavy weight of Naomi's words. She knows Naomi's hardened edges. We all know how deep tragedy can make a soul guarded against the world. Yet tonight, Naomi looks different. There is a spark of hope. She speaks slowly, choosing every single word with deliberate care. She speaks of Boaz, reminding Ruth of his rare kindness, his high standing, and the open-handed generosity that kept them alive. They both know he is single, wealthy, and kind. Those truths hang silently in the air before Naomi drops the vital revelation. Boaz is not just a kind stranger. He is family, a relative who holds the ancient power to redeem their lives. The law of redemption connects Ruth's desperate need to Boaz's abundant wealth. Ruth listens, her heart racing with sudden, breathless realization. She had no idea they were related, never understanding the deeper, redemptive meaning behind his grace. What seemed like simple pity was actually the spark of a new future. But Naomi's plan requires far more than passive hope. It demands extreme bravery. Tonight, Naomi explains Ruth must take a desperate, decisive step to reclaim her stolen destiny. Boaz will be winnowing barley at the threshing floor tonight. Once he finishes eat and lies down to sleep among the grain, he will finally be alone in the dark. This is her only chance. She must wash away the dust of grief, wear sweet perfume, and wear her finest clothes. She must wait until he sleeps, then slip in silently. She will uncover his feet and lie down, risking her entire reputation in the pitch dark. Then she must wait in the shadows for him to wake up and answer her unspoken plea for shelter. The sheer danger of this plan leaves Ruth breathless. To approach a man in the dark is to expose herself to absolute ruin if she is misunderstood. If anyone sees her, Rumors will destroy her life before Boaz even has a chance to speak. Her reputation would vanish. Yet, as Naomi explains the symbolic weight of this act, Ruth begins to see the deep hope in it. This is not seduction. It is a sacred plea for redemption. Uncovering his feet is a desperate cry for protection and a brand new beginning. Spreading his cloak over her means marriage and safety. Naomi urges her to act now because when everything is lost, timing is everything. The harvest feast is the perfect moment. Boaz will be happy, his heart full of gratitude for the field's abundance. He will be entirely alone, far from his servants. In the quiet dark, he is reachable in ways the busy day never allows. Terror and hope wrestle in Ruth's chest. This crazy plan is her only path to safety, belonging, and a real home. A beautiful, bright future. Yet she must wager absolutely everything she has left on a single terrifying act. What if Boaz rejects her? What if her boldness offends him? Naomi senses her fear. She reminds her of Boaz's gentle character and his deep respect for sacred law. She reminds Ruth of his kindness. We must build our hope on real evidence, not blind wishes. Naomi knows Boaz is a good man. In the gathering dark, Ruth finds her courage. She already risked everything once just by leaving her homeland for Bethlehem. She has already thrown her broken life into the hands of God. Why hesitate now when a path of redemption finally appears? Her resolve hardens. She will do exactly what Naomi tells her to do. She will trust his goodness. When life leaves you in ruins, you must seize your own future, guided by wisdom and sustained by love. The crucial hour has arrived. Night falls over Bethlehem like a quiet blanket. The noisy harvest celebration is finally over, leaving the fields silent except for the whispering wind. Ruth walks the dark paths, her heart pounding with heavy, anxious hope. She did exactly as she was told. She washed away the dust of hard labor, applying precious oil to her skin with trembling hands. When you seek a new life, you prepare with everything you have. Her humble dress transformed her. She was no longer just a poor widow begging for scraps. She was a woman of absolute dignity. The threshing floor lies under the cold moonlight, the very place where her fate will be decided. The heavy labor of winnowing is finally over. The good grain lies separated from the useless chaff, piled in neat mounds, ready to feed a fragile future. Sweet barley scents drift on the cold night air. At the dark edge of the threshing floor, Ruth pauses to find her courage. This single moment will change everything. She will either find the home she desperately needs or face a crushing public rejection that ruins her forever. When you have lost everything, there is no safety net, no turning back. Through the dark, she spots Boaz sleeping near the piles of grain, his body at ease in sleep. The long day's work was rewarding, the harvest abundant. He rests peacefully, completely unaware his comfortable life is about to change forever. Stepping onto the hard dirt with bare feet, Ruth creeps forward. There is no room for error if she wants to survive. She must gently uncover his feet without waking him, then lay down and wait. It is an ancient gesture, heavy with quiet hope. She is begging for his protection, asking him to rescue her from empty despair. Trembling, she lifts the heavy hem of his cloak, exposing his feet to the chilly night air. The same gentle wind that cleared the grain now helps her, masking her quiet movements in the shadows. She curls up at his feet, bowing her head in silent prayer. The seconds drag like hours. Her heart thumps so hard she fears it will wake him. Every whisper of wind in the barley makes her gasp, freezing at distant noises from the village. She has chosen her path, but this cold, agonizing weight tests her resolve. The shadows only grow deeper. Have you ever offered quiet prayers in the absolute dark? begging God for mercy. Ruth prays now, thinking of Naomi waiting back home. She thinks of their bleak, empty future if this fails. She remembers the kindness he showed her. Hours crawl by before he finally stirs. The chilly breeze on his bare ankles rouses him from sleep. Shifting to find his blanket, his hand brushes against something completely unexpected. It is not his coarse cloak, but the soft warmth of a human body. He sits up, instantly alert. Decades of protecting his estate have made him a light sleeper. Straining his eyes against the blackness, he tries to understand what has disturbed his rest. "Who is there?" he calls out. His voice is calm, controlled, yet filled with genuine curiosity rather than anger. He has lived long enough to know some disruptions bring unexpected blessings. Then, a soft but steady voice cuts through the shadows. "I am Ruth, your servant," she says. Those simple words carry a weight far deeper than their literal meaning. She claims her identity while gently reminding him of their family tie. But she does not stop with a mere greeting. Her next words turn a strange midnight meeting into a life-altering plea. "Spread your cloak over me, for you are my Redeemer." The plea hits him with intense physical weight. He instantly understands the massive legal and personal risk she has taken. She is asking for a lifetime of commitment, claiming her rights under the ancient laws of redemption. His response is swift, filled with genuine emotion. "May the Lord bless you, my daughter." He breathes. The words escape him instantly, revealing just how deeply he welcomes her desperate plea. He had admired her from afar, but never dared to dream she would choose him. He continues, voice shaking with wonder. He tells her that this incredible act of faith is even greater than her loyalty to Naomi. She could have chased younger men, rich or poor. She could have had them, yet she chose him, soothing his quiet insecurities about his age. Ruth feels a wave of relief wash over her. He is not angry or offended by her daring move. He is deeply, truly honored. Her desperate gamble has brought hope and mercy. But Boaz's next words introduce a massive obstacle they never saw coming. There is another relative who has a closer legal claim to Ruth than Boaz does. This other man has the first right of redemption. Honor demands that this man be given the first choice. This sudden news brings both bitter disappointment and fragile hope. Her plea cannot be resolved tonight, but she has not been rejected. Boaz promises to find this man tomorrow and settle the matter. If the relative steps forward to claim her, so be it. If not, Boaz vows to rescue her himself. For now, she must simply trust. She took the risk, laid bare her heart, and found acceptance. Now her fate rests on legalities and a stranger she has never met. Yet she knows his heart belongs to her too. Whatever tomorrow brings, her broken life will be healed by love, not just dry law. The cool dark wraps around them like a protective shield, creating a sacred space where two broken souls can finally speak their deepest truths. Ruth waits at his feet, vulnerable but unbroken. The desperate words she just spoke still linger heavily in the night air. They carry the weight of ancient tradition and deep personal longing. "Spread your cloak over me, for you are my Redeemer." Her cry echoes in his mind, stirring up feelings he had buried deep. He had watched her struggle and toil in his fields. He admired her quiet strength, but never believed she would look to an older man like him to restore her stolen future and give her life meaning again. Her humble words conceal staggering bravery. She is not just begging for survival or seeking a handful of charity. She is asking him to marry her, claiming her right to build a future out of the ashes of her past. By laying quietly at his feet, she shows her absolute vulnerability. She is a woman who has lost everything, asking to be covered. She asks for his protection. In this ancient custom, extending a cloak symbolizes a sacred vow to restore what was lost and heal the broken. Boaz sits bolt upright, his chest tightening with the sudden weight of hope. He has judged many difficult matters, but nothing has ever felt this fragile. A broken woman who lost everything is risking her final shred of trust on his goodness. His reply comes from a deeply moved soul. "May the Lord bless you, my daughter." These words carry a sacred weight. This midnight encounter is no mere coincidence. It is a quiet sign that life might still hold purpose. He speaks again, humbled and grateful. "Your latest kindness is even greater than the first," he says. He realizes her devotion to finding a future outshines even her initial loyalty to Naomi. She could have chased younger men seeking a simpler path to rebuild her shattered life. She could have used her beauty just to find easy safety. Instead, she chose the sacred path of family duty to reclaim her future. Yet even as hope warms his chest, Boaz knows they must face reality. His commitment to what is right demands that he handle the law carefully. "Do not be afraid, my daughter," he reassures her gently. "I will do whatever you ask, because everyone knows you are a woman of noble character." His promise marks a profound shift in her tragic journey. She first entered Bethlehem as a destitute foreign widow, completely alone. But through her quiet grace and hard work, she has commanded true respect. The town no longer sees a desperate outsider, but a woman of strength. This change changes everything. In a world where reputation dictates survival, she did the impossible. She overcame prejudice and profound grief through sheer, unwavering integrity. Yet Boaz cannot ignore the rules of redemption. "Yes, I am a close relative, but there is another man with a prior claim." These words bring a devastating twist that neither woman anticipated in their desperate quest for survival. The ancient law is strict. The closest living relative holds the primary right and obligation to step forward first. This ancient custom ensures that family land is preserved and that vulnerable widows are not left to starve. It keeps a dead man's legacy alive. Ever honest Boaz refuses to bypass the law. He will not steal what belongs to another. Though his soul aches to rescue her right now, his character demands order. The proper steps must be respected first. The closer relative must have his choice. "Stay here tonight," he whispers. "In the morning, if he wants to rescue you, so be it. But if he refuses, then I swear by the living God that I will redeem you myself." This solemn vow binds his entire future. You and I can imagine her fear. Her bold leap was not rejected, but her destiny still hangs in the balance. Once again, she must wait in the dark, trusting a man's word, praying the other relative will walk away. Darkness surrounds them, but everything has changed. What began as a desperate plea has become a profound connection between two souls who truly understand suffering and hope. Ruth finally knows she is cared for. Her redemption will not come from schemes, but through the patient, honest workings of the law. Boaz proved his honor. He could have easily exploited her desperation, ruined her reputation, or stained his own good name. Instead, he treated her with profound respect, promising a legal resolution. As the quiet hours pass, both find themselves transformed by this midnight grace. She found the strength to fight for her future. He realized that his orderly, solitary life was about to be turned upside down by a woman of matching courage. The quiet proposal of salvation has been spoken and accepted. Now begins the agonizing wait for dawn to see if life can truly find a way forward through the strict paths of duty. A sudden barrier looms as dawn arrives in cold gray light. But the truth revealed tonight casts a heavy, cold shadow over her hard-won hope. A nameless, completely unknown relative holds the keys to her survival. His words echo in the darkness. Another man has the first claim to save her. Another stranger will decide her fate. The fragile plan she built with Naomi has hit an obstacle they never saw coming. The ancient law is unyielding. Lineage dictates who holds the burden of duty, and this closer relative must go first. He must decide if he will claim the land and the widow. It is a system meant to preserve families, but it brings terrifying uncertainty when love is at stake. Ruth lay there, having bared her soul to Boaz, only to realize her entire life lies in a stranger's hands. Perhaps her brave leap was all in vain. Perhaps she allowed herself to hope too soon. Yet Boaz's tender warmth was genuine. His desire to protect her was real. He will not abandon her to the cruel whims of fate. He will fight within the law to rescue her. But the risk is terrifyingly practical. The other relative might choose to claim her as his own wife. If he does, she must submit to his household, losing any chance with Boaz forever. But there is another way. The relative might refuse, finding the burden too costly. If he steps aside, the path is clear. Boaz will have the right to save her, but she cannot foresee what a stranger will choose. He hides nothing from her. When you have lost everything, you only want the truth. He makes no false promises, offering only his relentless pursuit of what is right. Boaz is determined to secure our future. Soon he will face the elders at the city gate, where our fates will be decided in public. There in the open, every rule must be honored. My rights and the honor of my family will be weighed before everyone. Yet it also means my life becomes public gossip. At home, Naomi waits in agony, holding her breath to see if our hope will survive. Her fragile dreams depend entirely on this plan. If I fail, we both lose everything. This shadow falls over both of us, myself and Naomi, who guided me here. Now this nameless relative represents our deepest fear. I know nothing of his heart, his life, or how he will react to redeeming us. Will he be kind or cruel, wealthy or desperate to protect himself? I cannot predict what he will choose. The laws of land and inheritance complicate everything. Reclaiming our lives means buying back land and marrying me. This closer relative must weigh the heavy cost against any gain. He will worry about his own estate. And I know my foreign blood might ruin my chances. An eligible widow is one thing, but a woman from Moab is another. Although Bethlehem has tolerated me, my heritage could easily turn into a wall that locks me out. Survival comes down to silver. Redemption requires real wealth, the means to buy back our land and support me. If he is too poor, he must walk away, whatever his heart says. Even Boaz must tread lightly. He cannot simply claim me. He has to respect the very laws that keep us in suspense. His urge to save me must wait on the rights of another. As the morning light grows, the hard truth of our situation sinks in. What felt like a simple path home is now a maze of ancient laws and fragile hope. I must trust his wisdom. I must believe the same grace that led me to his fields will carry us through this final storm. This man has changed my world, yet nothing is settled. My heart is known, but my tomorrow remains a question mark. The promise is spoken, but my life hangs on the choice of a stranger. I gathered my courage and took the leap, and now I must wait for the fallout. As the first light of dawn bleeds into the sky, Boaz holds me close, unwilling to let go. My presence at his feet has disrupted his quiet life. He refuses to send me back empty-handed or leave me to face the coming storm without some real sign of his oath, some proof of his promise. "Sleep until morning," he whispers, keeping me safe. His voice is a shield in the night. He wants to protect my name, knowing what they would say if they saw me leave before dawn. He will not cast me out into the cold. I lie back down, my heavy heart suddenly lighter despite the trials ahead. His oath echoes in my mind, sworn before the living God. No matter what comes next, I am no longer wandering alone. This noble man has bound his fate to mine. We lie in silence, awake but deeply comforted just to be near each other. The scent of the rich harvest surrounds us, a quiet sign of the mercy that brought us here. Above, the stars begin to fade. When the shadows turn to gray before a single face can be recognized, Boaz stirs. It is time for me to go. I must slip away unseen to protect my name. My desperate act of faith must remain hidden until the time is right. But Boaz refuses to let me go with nothing. He tells me to take off my heavy outer cloak to use as a sack. Hold it open, he tells me. I stretch the fabric wide, and he pours 6 heavy measures of golden barley into my lap. It is an incredible gift, far more than simple charity. Each scoop is a promise that he will keep us safe, a sign that he values me, and a vow that we will not starve while we wait for our destiny to be decided. The fabric grows heavy in my hands, thick with blessing. This is no longer the scraps of a begging widow, but the bounty of a man who cherishes me. The weight feels like real security, a future born from ashes. Do not go back to Naomi empty-handed, he says, helping me secure the burden. He knows my life is bound to Naomi, and that both of our lives rest on his success today. He understands that saving me means saving the mother who guided me. I accept his gift with a silent, overflowing gratitude. This barley is far more than food. It is a lifeline of hope, a vow of protection, proof that my desperate plea touched his heart. Now I can return to Naomi with a physical sign of hope, even before our fate is sealed. Before I step away, his final words give me strength for the long hours ahead. He will not rest until this is settled today. His voice holds the deep authority of an honorable man who knows the sacred weight of a promise made before God. His strength turns my fearful retreat into a journey of absolute confidence. I do not doubt his word for a second. I do not fear that time will weaken his resolve. He is committed, sworn to act for us without delay. He has more than just good intentions. Boaz is a man of deep influence, fully capable of facing the law to save us. His word is respected in our city. Even the elders and our relatives cannot ignore his honor. I walk home through the quiet streets, the heavy grain a sweet burden on my shoulders. With every step, the rustling barley reminds me that hope has not forgotten us. This food will sustain them for now, but more importantly, it whispers that a future might still have meaning. Behind her, Boaz remains, his mind already sorting through the hurdles ahead. A closer relative must be approached, and strict legal customs must be satisfied. Yet he faces these heavy tasks with joy, not dread, knowing every step brings him closer to the woman who restored his hope. His promise is more than words whispered in the dark. It is a sacred vow under heaven, a commitment to rebuild a shattered life. He will not rest until it is finished, refusing to let hopeless uncertainty shadow her life any longer. As dawn breaks, lighting her path, Ruth walks home, carrying proof of his mercy and the quiet hope of his promise. These gifts will sustain her through the painful wait, proving that even in a broken world, restoration is still possible. The dark night has ended, but its quiet victory will reshape 2 lives and alter the history of generations to come. A vow has been made, a future set in motion by courage. Back home, Naomi waits in the shadows, watching. The door creaks open, and Ruth steps inside. Naomi has not slept, pacing in the dark, all through the night, pacing and praying, wondering if their desperate gamble would fail. Seeing Ruth's heavy cloak brings a sudden wave of relief. "How did it go?" my daughter Naomi asks, but she is really asking if their empty lives finally have meaning. She wants to know who they are now, and if a future truly exists. The heavy grain suggests success, but she needs details. Ruth sets down her heavy load and shares what happened, speaking of finding Boaz in the deep dark, of asking him for redemption, and of his joyful response. With awe, she describes his blessing and his promise to save their family. But then she reveals the obstacle they never saw coming. A closer relative stands between Ruth and a hopeful future. Naomi's face falls as she realizes what this means. Yet, as Ruth keeps talking, describing Boaz's fierce devotion, her fear fades. Hearing of his solemn promise and heavy gift, Naomi's worry turns to quiet hope. She knows honorable men do not break vows. If Boaz has sworn to act, he will do it. The 6 large measures of barley reveal his true intentions. This was no polite brush-off disguised as charity, but a massive gift, showing real commitment to their future. It speaks of abundance and a future that might actually hold meaning. Naomi runs her worn hands through the grain, feeling its premium quality. This is the best of the harvest, given freely by a man who has opened his heart to them. He has shared his blessing with her. "Sit still, my daughter," Naomi advises her, voice filled with wisdom, "until we see how this turns out. That man will not rest until he settles the matter today." She understands the hearts of good men. Honorable men do not make empty promises when vulnerable lives are hanging in the balance. Boaz's quick move to action shows his absolute resolve. The long wait begins, but they are no longer hopeless. Naomi busies herself with work, knowing their lives could change forever today. She looks over the few things they still own, wondering what they will need if a new life begins. Meanwhile, Ruth cannot focus on her ordinary chores. Her mind keeps drifting back to the dark threshing floor, to the warmth in Boaz's voice, and the hopeful promise hanging in the air. She has made her brave move, and now she must trust. The sweet grain offers immediate comfort for today. As Naomi cooks their morning meal, they taste something new in the food, a rare flavor of blessing and meaning. They have real proof of mercy. As the sun rises, Naomi explains the complex laws that will decide their fate. The city gate will become a courtroom where elders gather. The other relative will be called forward to answer, forced to state whether he will redeem them. She details the cold realities of property, family duties, and survival. All these heavy factors hang in the balance. The man must weigh more than just marrying a young foreign widow. He must consider the steep cost of land and new debts. Ruth listens, realizing how complex their survival has become. What felt like a simple plea for a home is tangled in laws and money. Her foreign background adds more risk. Yet Naomi's trust in Boaz grows as she thinks of his high standing and his good, noble heart. He is a man of power and honor, fully able to handle the law while fighting for the future he wants. His vow to act quickly shows his determination. The long day stretches out, filled with waiting, but also hope. Ruth has done everything she can, taking a massive risk. Now she must wait, trusting in Boaz's solemn word and in the unseen hand that led her from Moab to this threshold. Naomi watches her with deep, loving concern. Ruth's brave step opened a door, but the ending is out of their hands. Naomi knows waiting is the hardest test of all. Together they wait in the silence. The heavy grain is proof that they are not entirely forgotten. The promise is their shield. Between the gift and the rescue lies trust, the quiet space where hope must survive on faith alone. The negotiation begins. Morning light rises over Bethlehem, casting long shadows across the plaza. When you have lost everything, does a new day bring hope? This ancient gateway is more than an entrance. It is the beating heart of our town, where elders gather to decide our fates, settle disputes, and perhaps restore what was lost. Boaz arrives early. His steady steps hide the deep urgency of a man trying to rebuild a family. He gave his word to Ruth. He promised to settle this today. Last night changed everything, turning a faint hope into a fierce determination to make things right. The gateway fills with regular morning life. Merchants set up shops. Farmers bring their crops to sell, carrying on as if nothing has changed. People go about the daily grind of survival. But today, this common ground will decide if a ruined family can finally rise again. Boaz stands where he can watch the crowd. He knows the other relatives' habits, waiting for the one man who holds the key to our future in his hands. Haste will ruin this. He must wait. When you are fighting to reclaim a life, timing is absolutely everything. The town elders start to gather. They have seen families rise, fall, and turn to dust. They know how easily a name can be erased from the earth. They have guided our people through years of struggle. Now their presence demands truth. Suddenly Boaz spots the man he needs. The closest relative walks up slow and comfortable. He looks successful but ordinary. A man who has never known the bitter sting of losing absolutely everything. His life is easy and safe. "Come over here, friend. Sit down." Boaz calls out his formal words, signaling that destiny is on the line. The relative stops, caught off guard by the direct shout. Yet duty and custom demand he sit and face the man calling his name. He sits down beside Boaz, cautious and curious. He knows this is no friendly chat. Something big is about to unfold. He sees the elders gathering around them. This is a moment of reckoning, a transaction that could reshape lives forever. Boaz quickly calls the required witnesses. "Sit here," he says to 10 elders. That is the number needed to make a broken promise legally whole again. They hold the wisdom of the town. Their eyes ensure that justice is done for those who have nothing left. The stage is set to decide Ruth's fate. The relative sits there clueless, about to face a choice that looks simple but holds a heavy cost. It looks like an easy win, but a trap is waiting. Boaz lays out his case with absolute precision. Naomi has come back from Moab and is selling the land that belonged to our relative, Elam. And Boaz begins. Every word is carefully chosen. He frames it as a duty and a financial win. Instantly, the relative sits up straight, smelling profit. To him, land is wealth and security. Snatching up property from a desperate, grieving widow is just good business. He leans in, hungry for details. Boaz continues setting the legal trap. "I thought I should bring this matter to you directly. You should buy it before these witnesses and the elders of my people." This formal demand forces a public choice, leaving no room for him to hide. Every eye is watching. The deal sounds incredibly easy, almost too good to be true for an ambitious man. Cheap land, family ties, and legal backing. It is a perfect opportunity to gain more wealth while looking righteous. Greed speaks fast. "I will buy it," he declares, eager to claim his easy prize. His voice is smug, proud of his easy win. The promise rings across the hot plaza, heard by everyone gathered there to watch. The deal seems locked, but Boaz is not done speaking. The real cost of redemption is about to be revealed. Now Boaz will turn his greed to ice, showing the heavy price of rebuilding a broken name. "The day you buy this field from Naomi, you must also marry Ruth, the Moabite widow, to keep the dead man's name alive on his land." The blow hits him hard. This is no longer a cheap land deal. It is a massive, life-changing weight. He cannot just take the land. He must take a foreign widow, commit to marriage, and raise children who will not even carry his own name. A heavy silence falls over the plaza as he desperately calculates the risk. He weighs the cost to his own family and inheritance. What seemed like a gift has suddenly turned into a dangerous liability. And Ruth is an outsider. Bringing a Moabite woman into his home brings social shame and deep family conflict. A quick profit has turned into a life-altering choice. The elders lean forward, watching this man struggle to find a way out. They know what true redemption costs. They see the heavy choice hanging in the balance. There is no running from his word now. Boaz stands silent, showing nothing on his face, but his pulse is pounding. The next words spoken will decide if a ruined family finds a future or if all hope dies right here. It all rests on a selfish man's choice. Will love and duty triumph over greed? The morning sun stretches long across the ancient gate as Boaz stands to face the crowd. His voice carries the heavy weight of our history and the quiet promise he whispered to Ruth in the dark. The closest relative sits there blind to the fact that his next breath will shape generations. Boaz speaks with cool, absolute focus. He lays out the facts one by one. He first offers Naomi's field for redemption. The relative nods, smiling. He thinks this is just cheap land. To him, land is just security. But Boaz pauses, letting the tension build before hitting him with the truth. When you buy this field, Boaz pushes further, you must also acquire Ruth the Moabite, the widow of Mahlon. The words hang like cold mist. The closer relative's face completely falls. His greed vanishes under the weight of the law. Ruth is no simple prize. She represents a duty to build a future for a name that was entirely wiped out. It would split his own estate. His life's work would build another man's memory. He stands silent, weighing personal gain against a broken family's future. The elders watch this tense negotiation, fully realizing the trap Boaz has so quietly set. He laid out the law with sharp precision and deep wisdom. Now the choice belongs to the relative. Boaz steered him without a single threat. "I cannot redeem it," the man admits. "It would ruin my own estate. Take my right and redeem it yourself." He slides off his sandal and hands it over. In their world, this small gesture seals the contract, passing the duty of restoration to someone else. Boaz takes the leather with quiet respect. He holds it high for the crowd, turning to face those gathered at the gate. His voice rises clear and strong. "You are witnesses today that I have bought all that belonged to IMC and to Chilion and Mahlon from Naomi." These dry legal terms carry a deeper hope. He is reclaiming the shattered pieces of a ruined family. He accepts the role of protector, knowing exactly what it costs. The crowd nods in agreement, having watched a simple legal exchange turn into something holy. They witnessed grace. "Furthermore," Boaz announces, "I have acquired Ruth the Moabite, Mahlon's widow, to be my wife." In an instant, a grieving widow is transformed into a cherished bride. The elders whisper their blessing, recognizing how beautiful it is when duty and devotion finally walk hand in hand. Their voices rise together in a beautiful, powerful blessing. "May the Lord make this young woman entering your home like Rachel and Leah, who together built the entire house of Israel." They place this foreign widow among Israel's founding mothers, praying, "May you prosper in Ephrathah and be famous right here in Bethlehem." Their prayers reach far beyond today, asking for a legacy that will outlive them both. Looking far beyond this moment, they speak of a lasting future. The gathered crowd joins the prayer. "May your house become like the household of Perez, whom Tamar bore to Judah through the children the Lord will give you by this young woman." Remembering Tamar brings a deep, sacred hope to their words. She was another outsider who risked everything to find a future. Now Boaz stands changed. He is no longer just a wealthy farmer. He is a savior to this family. He chose devotion over comfort and responsibility over gain. The sandal represents true moral courage. The crowd slowly scatters, but the wonder of this moment remains. They have watched justice and grace work together exactly as they were meant to. A lonely outsider has found a home, and a grieving mother has finally found a reason to believe in tomorrow. As the sun rises, Boaz walks back to his fields, but his world has changed. The wheat swaying in the breeze now whispers of a brand new future. It will sustain the fragile family he chose to rescue from despair. A journey that started with begging in the dirt now ends in a harvest of hope. The gate grows quiet, but the story spreads through the town like ripples on a pond. Everyone talks of his kindness and her fierce loyalty. They all feel they have witnessed something far greater than a mere land deal. Meanwhile, Ruth waits. She does not yet know she is no longer a beggar, but a bride. Beside her, Naomi feels a spark of hope for the first time in decades. A morning of cold legal details ends with the promise of a fresh start. That dusty leather sandal carried the power to rebuild shattered lives. A common shoe becomes the tool of salvation. One man's refusal opens the door to a beautiful redemption. When life strips everything away, even a closed door can lead to hope. Plans for the wedding begin, filling the streets of Bethlehem with quiet, excited whispers. News races through the busy markets. The honorable landowner is marrying the poor foreign widow who gathered scraps in his fields. The village is alive with wonder. Naomi steps out from the dark shadows of her grief, her once empty hands now busy with joyful preparation. She helps her daughter dress her hands, carrying both ancient tradition and a newfound lightness. The bitter widow who wanted to be called Mara finally speaks of joy. Looking into the polished bronze mirror, Ruth is changed. The dusty rags of a beggar are replaced by the beautiful robes of a bride. Naomi gently adjusts the fabric, each fold carrying a silent promise of love. Through these tender acts, an outsider is finally welcomed home as a true daughter. Her bridal robes tell a story of their own, weaving together ancient history and a fresh start. The rich material displays Boaz's care and Ruth's honor. It is not just clothing. It is the visible proof that a ruined life has been restored. Boaz arrives in his finest garments, though his greatest adornment is the deep joy shining from his eyes. His family gathers close, raising their voices in celebration. The man who rescued a name and a field stands ready to welcome this beautiful future. They gather in the heart of the town, inviting the entire community to witness this union of hope and history. The elders from the gate now stand ready to bless them. The very voices that prayed for ancient mothers now speak the holy vows that unite a husband and wife. Under the wedding canopy, they make promises that will echo through the ages. Their words hold the serious weight of covenant, but also the pure light of love. Their vows reach far beyond personal happiness, securing a future for the generations yet to come. Ruth's quiet voice rises. A voice once lost to grief and hard labor now declares a new identity. The woman who clung to Naomi in the ruins now pledges her future to Boaz. The same brave heart that trusted when all was lost now walks the path of joy. Celebration pours into the dusty streets of Bethlehem. You and I can feel the joy as tables groan under Boaz's harvest. Bread and wine flow, proof that life can return after starvation. The very town that once whispered of Naomi's bitter grief now sings of Ruth's blessing. Music fills the night air as the celebration rages on. Pure joy finally silences the long years of mourning inside Naomi's home. Silent, dusty instruments are taken down and find their sweet voices once again. This happy rhythm washes away the heavy memory of sorrow. The women of Bethlehem crowd around Ruth, their suspicion completely replaced by genuine warm affection. In her eyes, they see the beauty of an unbroken heart finally rewarded. The quiet foreigner who once stood alone is now family. Her fierce courage has won them over. Children dart between the heavy tables, their wild laughter joining the music. They chase one another through the happy crowds, bringing a pure, infectious joy. Unseen future generations born from this hard-won union seem to dance along with them in this very moment. As darkness falls, the feast turns deeper, almost sacred. Flickering torches cast long, dancing shadows against the ancient stone walls of the city. These flames remind us that love can light up the deepest despair. This marriage is far more than a wedding. It is the glorious rekindling of a dead hope. Naomi sits in the place of honor, her long trial over. The widow who crawled back to Bethlehem, empty, now sees life overflow with true abundance. Her daughter's joy becomes her own healing. The bitter root of her old grief has finally blossomed into the sweet fruit of survival. Wedding gifts stack high as tokens of community grace. Fine-grained sweet oil pottery and livestock all witness to the incredible warmth now surrounding this fragile union. A couple that started with nothing now receives an overflow of love. As the formal vows end and they turn to face their brand new beginning, the whole town exhales a long sigh of relief. They have witnessed something deeply good and right. A story that opened with dry famine and bitter death has turned toward love and second chances. Even the stars above Bethlehem shine brighter tonight. The same cold sky that watched Naomi return in tears now witnesses Ruth's ultimate triumph. High above those ancient lights shine down on pure joy. This sacred union of Boaz and Ruth is not merely a happy ending, but the spark of an eternal legacy that will ring through history. The wedding night settles into a sacred quiet as the city sleeps. The feast is over, but the joy stays. Yes, tomorrow brings its own challenges, but tonight is for triumphant love and the quiet promise of Eid. Months soon pass in a gentle rhythm as Ruth embraces life as Boaz's wife. The dusty barley fields where she once begged now welcome her as their mistress. The grand home that seemed so unreachable in her poverty now embraces her warmly. Love has totally reshaped her entire world. Naomi watches these miracles unfold with quiet wonder. Let's pause and look at this together. Ruth moves with confidence, her belly rounding with new life. The home that felt so empty now prepares for a new generation. Hope takes physical shape as a child grows inside her womb. The pregnancy progresses with an incredible deep peace. Her strength only grows as the months pass. The same fierce spirit that carried her through devastating grief and poverty now sustains her as she carries this new soul. Her body becomes a sanctuary of promise. Boaz cares for his wife with tender devotion. The man who once protected a foreign beggar now pours love onto the mother of his child, Shulfin. His calloused hands, once shaped by brutal harvest labor, now learn a soft tenderness as he cares for his growing family. When love is offered without strings, it multiplies. Soon the local women gather close as her time approaches. They offer their deep wisdom and birth stories, giving her both physical strength and heartfelt, steady encouragement. This foreigner, who once stood forgotten on the cold margins of society, now finds herself embraced inside this sacred circle of mothers. A true family forms around the raw mystery of birth. When the sharp contractions finally begin to take hold, Ruth meets the pain with the same quiet bravery that led her from Moab all the way to Bethlehem. That same fierce inner steel that carried her through crushing loss now carries her through the agonizing work of bringing a new life to birth. Each wave of pain becomes a prayer. Every ragged breath is a silent declaration of faith. The midwives watch over her with steady hands and calm, soothing whispers. They have delivered countless babies, yet this birth feels different. The child entering the world represents much more than just a new branch on a family tree. This birth is the healing of a broken line, a promise kept from long ago. Just outside the quiet birthing room, Naomi paces the floor, her soul torn between desperate prayer and cold, lingering anxiety. After losing so much to the grave, this new life brings both wild hope and terror. The woman who once called herself cursed finally dares to believe in the reality of grace. Her pacing steps measure the bridge between her old grief and this brand new joy. Suddenly, a baby's sharp cry pierces the morning air, strong and clear. Ruth's long struggle ends in triumphant victory as she holds her baby boy close for the first time. The child's healthy, loud cries tell the world he has arrived, proving hope is never truly dead. A fresh new life has triumphed over the cold shadow of the grave. Boaz enters the room, tears streaming down his face. The man who rescued both land and widow now looks upon the living proof of his redemption. His newborn son rests safely in Ruth's arms, breathing whole and beautiful. The harvest of their faithful love has produced its most precious fruit. The midwife gently washes the newborn with steady, loving care. With experienced hands, she swaddles the little boy in warm, soft cloth and hands him to his parents with a quiet smile. Another life safely delivered. Another beautiful miracle in the dark. Holding her son Ruth proves to you and me that hope always wins. The baby she carried through months of grief now rests in her arms, no longer a hidden hope, but a breathing reality. His tiny fingers grasp at the air, and his eyes blink open against the sharp new light. The terrifying unknown future has finally taken a human shape. They name him Obed, a name meaning one who serves and worships. It is a choice born of quiet gratitude and fragile hope. This little boy will carry a purpose far greater than himself. His very existence will honor the God who builds beauty from ashes and turns deep grief into joy. Soon news of his birth spreads through Bethlehem. The neighbors who celebrated their wedding now gather to rejoice again. They can feel that they are witnessing a moment of true, sacred healing. An outsider from a foreign land has given Israel a son. The local women gather quickly, eager to share their joy and look upon the newborn. Looking closely, they see the faces of both parents in his tiny features. But there is something more. The quiet promise of a future yet unwritten. A fresh chapter begins for a wounded people. Trembling Naomi reaches out to take her new grandson into her worn, shaking hands. You and I have seen how grief can make the future feel entirely dead. Yet the woman who thought her line had ended now holds living proof of tomorrow. Her vast emptiness suddenly filled. Arms that were empty for painful years now cradle hope made flesh. Slowly, the infant's first days pass in a blur of quiet wonder and adjustment. Ruth gently learns the soft rhythms of being a mother, while Boaz finds quiet joy in fatherhood. A home that once knew only the cold transactions of business now echoes with soft domestic life. Here, love has found its quiet, ultimate purpose. Little Ed changes everything around them in ways both seen and felt. Just by breathing, he completely redefines what home actually means. The boy who began as a whisper of hope is now its living proof. On the 8th day, they gather for his dedication, marking his entrance into the community of faith. This ancient sacred ritual, practiced for generations, now claims this specific child for a divine future. His place among his people is sealed. As the weeks roll by, Obed grows stronger, his small eyes widening to the world around him. He begins to recognize the warm faces of those who saved him. His tiny movements become deliberate, full of emerging life. The boy who was once just a dream now begins to reveal his own unique soul. Meanwhile, the autumn harvest arrives, bringing deep meaning to this family. The exact fields where Ruth once scavenged in despair now grow the heavy grain that will feed her own beloved son. The rhythms of sowing and reaping take on a sacred weight when this land becomes a legacy. Naomi is finally being restored. Her healing comes quietly, like the first pale light breaking over the hills. Naomi stands in her doorway, holding her grandson tightly against her chest. The solid warmth of this tiny body fills the cold, hollow ruins of her heart, stirring feelings she thought had died forever. The women of Bethlehem gather in her courtyard, their voices rising together in a beautiful, spontaneous song of pure celebration. They saw Naomi crawl out of the absolute darkest pits of grief to reach this dawn. If you have ever felt entirely broken, you know how sweet this shared victory is. "Praise be to the Lord," they cry out, "who has not left you without a protector today." Their words honor the unseen hand that used human kindness to heal a shattered life. In this baby, they do not just see a child, but proof of relentless hope. The crowd calls out, their voices ringing with a sudden, joyful intensity. "May this boy," they pray, "become famous in Israel. May he rebuild your soul and care for you in your old age." They speak with profound vision, looking past this moment to see how this child will shape history itself. For the first time in years, Naomi's face shines with a radiant, forgotten light. The cold lines of grief around her eyes melt into soft creases of laughter. A mouth that once spoke only of total ruin now parts in a tender smile. The woman who once begged to be called bitter now remembers who she really is. Naomi, the pleasant one. She holds Obed with the fierce, gentle grace of someone who knows what loss feels like. Hands scarred by bitter grief and hard labor now cradle the child with infinite gentleness. The grandmother, who thought her arms would remain forever empty, feels her deepest wounds finally close. In her embrace, the tiny infant rests in perfect peace. His tiny chest rises and falls against her. In these quiet, sacred seconds, an unbreakable bond is forged between a grandmother and her savior. This connection will anchor them both forever. Love builds a bridge across the painful divide of generations. Ruth watches quietly from the edge of the yard, her own heart swelling. The young widow who swore to follow Naomi now sees the fruit of her radical devotion. Her quiet loyalty did not just rescue her own life. It brought profound healing to the broken mother she refused to abandon. The neighbors whisper in absolute wonder at the shift in Naomi. They remember the hollow shell of a woman who returned from Moab drowned in bitterness. Now they look at a woman entirely reborn through love and unexpected hope. Redemption is no longer a concept, it is standing right before them. Boaz steps into the crowded yard, adding his own quiet strength to the joy. Watching Naomi smile, he knows his work of rescue is finally complete. The man who set out to save a piece of land and a lonely widow has mended a shattered family. His small acts of mercy have yielded a harvest beyond his wildest dreams. Soft afternoon light spills over the courtyard, bathing them in a warm, golden glow. In moments like this, you and I realize how sacred a quiet life can be when blessing finally returns. Time seems to slow down, letting them breathe in this hard-won peace. Naomi starts to speak, her voice ringing with a deep strength she had lost so long ago. She tells the listening women of God's relentless love, sharing how he turned her deep mourning into a dance of joy. Her words rise like a quiet song, lifting the heavy hearts of everyone gathered. The baby shifts in my arms, his tiny hands reaching up toward my face. I laugh, a sound that startles everyone, even me. That laughter wells up from depths long sealed by sorrow, now cracked open by joy. The sound of my happiness echoes through the courtyard. Around me, the women begin sharing how God kept his promises to them. Every story adds to our growing chorus of praise. They speak of answered prayers and unexpected blessings, of how God worked through our deepest pain to bring about something beautiful. Our gathering turns into a true celebration of grace. As evening approaches, the neighbors slowly begin to drift home, but our family stays close. I keep holding Obed, refusing to let him go. This child, my restoration, sleeps peacefully, unaware of the hope he has brought. Ruth starts preparing our supper while I quietly cradle the baby. These simple chores feel different now that we are whole again. The table that once felt painfully empty now fits our growing family beautifully. As we eat, we talk about the future. We trace out dreams for little Obed of the legacy he will inherit and his place in our town. Once we lived day to day. Now we have the joy of planning for generations. My prayers tonight feel different than they have in years. Instead of begging for relief from my pain, I whisper words of thankfulness. I, who once felt entirely abandoned by God, now speak to Him as a close friend. My faith has been healed alongside my life. The night passes in quiet peace, with Obed sleeping soundly in his cradle. I wake up several times, not from anxiety, but just to look at my grandson. Seeing his quiet face proves my life has truly changed. When the next morning dawns, it feels like a brand new start. I get up with a strength I have not felt in decades. No longer dragging myself through the hours, I welcome the future. My heart is finally healed. My hope has returned. Our home wakes up with joy and purpose. Rooms that once echoed with my bitter weeping now ring with the sweet sounds of family. Having Obed here has healed my broken heart and transformed our home. When the neighbors gather for morning talk, they see the difference right away. I stand taller now, my voice is steady, and my eyes are bright. I used to be defeated by life, but now I radiate His grace, secure in my family's future. The years drift past like quiet seasons, bringing both trials and unexpected gifts. Obed grows from a baby into a playful boy. His laughter fills our once silent halls, a promise that now walks and talks. He is our constant reminder of God's redemption. Ruth watches her son with the pure wonder of a mother who knows he is a miracle. The little boy playing in our yard holds the future of two nations, two separate paths woven into one. His Moabite mother's courage and Israelite father's devotion live on in his life. I watch my grandson with the absolute joy of knowing our family line survives. I once feared our family name would die forever. Now, I watch the next generation flourish. Obed's games and sweet questions bring life to my aging bones. Boaz teaches him how to tend the fields and honor our traditions. The man who rescued us now passes our ancestral wisdom to his young son. The very fields where their love began are now Obed's classroom. Our neighbors watch Obed grow with deep affection. They still remember the pain of how his life began, how our family was saved, and the great blessing that came from his parents. The boy who was our hope in miniature grows into a strong young man, showing every sign of a truly noble heart. He has his father's strength, his mother's deep loyalty, and the wisdom I have tried to share. All these traits unite in a young man of deep integrity. Soon the day comes for Obed to marry and start his own home. His wedding brings back the joy of his parents' day, but with a deeper promise. Our story, born in tragedy, now marches forward in hope. Ruth becomes a grandmother in her own time, cradling another precious new life. She left Moab as a childless widow, but now cradles her grandchildren, knowing God's perfect timing. Her long walk from emptiness to fullness is finally complete. Now, in my twilight years, I watch my family grow with an unspeakable deep peace. I came back to Bethlehem with nothing. Today I see the rich harvest of my once empty hands reaching toward descendants I will never meet. The birth of Jesse, Obed's son, marks our next step. The boy destined to father kings enters the world in quiet simplicity. His great destiny remains hidden in our quiet family days. The future lies there wrapped in humble swaddling clothes, waiting for God's perfect hour. Our family records now hold names that once seemed utterly impossible to write down. Ruth, our Moabite daughter, stands proud among Israel's mothers. Her foreign blood is no shame, but a testament to God's boundary-breaking grace. Travelers carry our story far beyond Bethlehem. The tale of a foreign widow who became a mother of nations captures every heart that hears it. Our story of redemption inspires everyone. Meanwhile, Obed grows into a man of deep character, respected by everyone in the land. The boy born from love and redemptive law has become a strong pillar of our community. His life honors every risk we took. Under his care, our redeemed fields flourish. When we lose everything, we wonder if the future holds meaning, yet the fields where I starved now yield abundant harvests. My grandson Jesse grows up in the safety of a family that found its purpose after losing everything the boy who will father. My great-grandson David will grow up hearing how Naomi and I survived. These stories of survival and redemption will shape his own faith. Now, in my old age, I find comfort knowing my choice to follow Naomi has borne fruit beyond my wildest dreams. That choice on a dusty road in Moab still echoes through generations. My stubborn loyalty became the foundation of a dynasty. Naomi spent her final years in peace, finally seeing hope restored. The bitter soul who once begged to be called Mara now faced eternity with the peace of a redeemed heart. Her long journey ended not in emptiness, but in absolute abundance. The neighbors who watched our lives unfold now pass our story down to their children. Our survival has become part of their shared history. It is a reminder that God uses broken, ordinary lives for extraordinary things. My foreign name, once so out of place, is now recorded forever. Ruth the Moabite, Naomi the bitter, Boaz the Redeemer, Obed the child of joy. Each of us carries a story of future hope. The family tree, starting with Abraham and Sarah, now holds me, the foreign woman who dared to make Israel my home. A line that should have ended with our empty return now blooms with new life. My leap of faith bridged two worlds. As the morning mist rises over Bethlehem's fields, I look back on the journey. I, who once worshipped Moab's gods, now stand among Israel. My transformation is complete, yet my memories remain. Crossing between these two worlds has marked my soul forever. My accent still carries soft traces of my homeland, a gentle reminder of the immense distance I have traveled. These Hebrew words flow more easily now, but the Moabite rhythms of my childhood still shape the way I speak. My voice carries the story of two worlds meeting. Israel's customs are second nature now, yet I still remember my birthplace. New festivals have replaced the pagan rituals of my youth, but my heart's search for true meaning never changed. My worship found a new home, and the women of Bethlehem no longer look at me as a stranger. Yet I still carry the perspective of an outsider who chose to belong, asking questions out of genuine curiosity. My understanding of Israel's ways runs deep because I chose them. My children grow up bilingual, barely realizing it. I sing them lullabies from Moab and tell them stories of Israel's God, bridging my past and their future with a richness pure heritage could never give. The laws of Israel that once seemed so foreign now govern my days, the rules of clean and unclean, of holy days, harvests, and marriage. They are my identity now. These sacred rituals have truly transformed my soul. We only truly understand devoted love when we have to cross hard boundaries to find it. The devotion that bound me to Naomi and Boaz was a choice. Loyalty born of decision, not blood, making it more precious because I gave it freely. My daily chats in the market show how deep I belong. I haggle with merchants using local slang, share town gossip with discretion, and offer advice born of hard-earned experience. My foreign birth is now just a footnote, not my identity. Israel's prayers flow through my life like familiar water. The prayers I offer, the sacrifices I bring, the festivals I celebrate, they have all become natural expressions of faith. My transformed heart redefined my daily routine. Memories of Moab remain vivid but no longer hurt. I can speak of my homeland without that sharp ache, remembering the good. My past is now a bridge, not a chain. The children I teach in the community learn from my unique survival. My lessons on faithfulness carry the weight of lived experience. Stories of choosing God over comfort help others at their own crossroads. My life teaches the next generation. The food I cook blends both my worlds. Techniques from my mother's kitchen in Moab now feed my Israelite family. Spices that once marked me as foreign now enrich my life. My prayers speak of both loss and gain, thanking God for new blessings while honoring the cost of what I left behind. My worship carries the heavy, beautiful weight of someone who paid the price for change and found it worth it. The stories I tell my grandchildren span both sides of the Jordan. They learn about God from someone who chose Him over familiar idols. My entire understanding of God comes from experiencing His personal, unexpected invitation to me. The God who welcomed a foreign woman like me into His family is far greater than the exclusive gods of Moab. My faith grew from survival, not rules. Israel's seasonal rhythms have completely replaced Moab's in my heart. The harvest feasts, the Day of Atonement, and Passover now mark the passage of time in my life. When you look at a story from the outside, you gain a unique, beautiful appreciation for its truth. Learning of Egypt, the wilderness, and covenants as an adult makes my connection to them fresh, raw, and completely intentional. When you lose everything, faith isn't just a duty, it becomes a lifeline. Her fierce words of trust come from someone who survived the wreckage and felt hope pull her back from the edge. Her voice carries the heavy, beautiful weight of a rebuilt soul. She is no longer an outcast. She has finally found her true home. But we can't forget the pain it took to get here. The grieving widow who crossed that river in blind faith is now a bridge of hope for two nations. Her survival proves that grace reaches into the deepest ruins. She leaves behind a blueprint for anyone trying to build a future on broken ground. She shows us how to choose a future when the past is gone. It is possible to honor the graves we left behind while still stepping forward into the light to change without losing who you are. The town that once whispered about the broken foreigner now looks to her as a beacon of true restoration. She proves that a sense of belonging isn't something you are born with. It is something you choose to build with a committed heart. She embraced a new home without hiding her old scars. And then the law of redemption stepped into her story. Morning light hits the ancient stone gate of Bethlehem as the elders gather to decide people's fates. These worn seats have witnessed generations of grief and hope. They hold the heavy burden of the past and the promise of tomorrow. Here, where her empty hands find a future, the law of redemption reveals its true heart. This ancient custom is woven deep into the soul of the community, stretching back to Mount Sinai. It is far more than a legal loophole to save a family from ruin. It represents a promise that no one should have to face complete ruin alone. They call this protector the Goel. He stands as a shield against total collapse, because the law knows that sudden tragedy and bitter loss can break any of us. Tragedy threatens to wipe out our very legacy, leaving us with nothing. But a Redeemer steps into that dark void, rebuilding what was shattered and restoring our future. He saves both the home and the bloodline. But to take on this sacred task of restoring hope, a person has to meet strict demands. This Redeemer must be a true relative, sharing your pain and blood. He must also have the wealth needed to buy back everything you lost. He must have the power to pay the heavy price of rescue. But above all, he must actually want to carry your burden. The path out of absolute ruin follows a strict ancient process to protect everyone. The competing claims of different relatives are judged by how close they are to the broken family. The tighter the bond, the heavier the duty to save them. The law demands that rescue starts with those nearest to us. But this restoration goes far deeper than just signing over old land. A redeemer can reclaim the fields you had to sell when famine took everything, making sure your family history is not erased. He can buy back those who were forced to sell their freedom, giving them back their dignity. He can marry the widow, breathing life back into a dead name. This system binds us together in shared survival. A redeemer cannot just pick the easy parts of your rescue and leave the rest in ruins. It ties power to sacrifice, stopping the wealthy from taking advantage of someone who has already lost everything. This safety net ensures that temporary tragedy does not become a permanent curse, keeping the vulnerable from being crushed forever. It keeps hope alive for those who have hit absolute rock bottom. The law knows that life can steal everything, but it offers a way to rebuild. In the end, this sacred duty knits broken families back together when they are weakest. Knowing someone will fight for you when your world collapses brings a peace that nothing else can. It turns personal wealth into shared survival. This rescue is not just about human survival. It reflects a deeper divine promise. It shows us a creator who refuses to let us stay broken. This earthly redeemer is just a whisper of the ultimate promise that one day every single thing we lost will be restored. When we look at her empty hands, we see how beautiful and complicated this rescue truly is. Boaz does not just do his duty, he offers real grace to a grieving widow. He proves that the law can do more than keep us alive. It can give us a brand new beginning. But the other relative refuses, proving that rescue cannot be forced. You cannot compel someone to step into the dark to save another person's future. True restoration requires a willing heart, not just a full wallet. It must be a choice made out of love, not duty. His refusal is painful, but it was his choice to make. Giving up his shoe is a deeply symbolic act. In this ancient custom, a sandal represents your right to walk on the soil and claim a future there. By handing his sandal to Boaz, he is giving away his own claim to this piece of land. But he also transfers the solemn duty to rescue this grieving family. Doing this in public means the community witnesses a promise of survival. The crowd gathered at the gates becomes the living record of this new hope. Their presence ensures that this broken family's recovery is secure and recognized by all. The blessing from the elders shows they see this as far more than just a cold business deal. They ask God to bless the man who dared to rescue her, knowing his mercy aligns with a divine plan for hope. It turns cold law into a sacred calling. This custom was built for those terrible moments when a family's future seems completely dead. This ancient provision ensures that a man's name can survive even after he has been laid in the grave. It fights against total erasure, refusing to let our history be forgotten. Guarding the vulnerable is the very heartbeat of this entire rescue system. Back then, losing a husband meant losing your entire world overnight. Yet even in that complete dark, hope was fighting to survive. When life strips us bare, can ancient laws truly protect a widow from falling into complete, hopeless destitution? This rescue system does more than save one soul. It anchors entire communities when everything starts to fall apart. It secures their heritage, keeping ancestral soil from being lost forever. It stands as a promise that even in exile, their connection to the sacred land remains unbroken. When we lose our way and our inheritance through tragedy or bad choices, we find ourselves desperate for some kind of higher, ultimate rescue. When everything spiritual is stripped away by our own failures, this old law whispers a promise the divine will step in to rebuild our ruins. To save someone from the depths, the rescuer must meet the exact demands of the law. He must be one of us, sharing our pain and fragile nature, while also holding the immense wealth and power needed to pay our massive debt. He must conquer the very things that broke us, and, above all, be willing to pay the ultimate price. In Ruth, we watch this beautiful rescue play out exactly as it was meant to. A broken household is put back together by a caring relative who chooses to step up. Lost fields are reclaimed, a dying name is saved, and everyone sees how love can rewrite a tragic ending. Boaz shows us exactly what it looks like to be a true savior for the desperate. His meticulous respect for the law, his deep generosity, and his readiness to sacrifice. These traits define him as the ultimate redeemer in a broken world. He proves that rules can do more than regulate, they can heal. And when the rescue is complete, the joy that follows shows how a whole town rejoices when hope is restored. Saving just one broken home becomes a shared victory for every single soul. This rescue doesn't just mend one life. It weaves a safety net of hope for everyone who has ever feared the dark. Naomi went from bitter grief to overflowing blessing. It started small, like tiny seeds of hope buried deep in cold, unyielding dirt. Picture Naomi at her door, watching Ruth carry home heaps of grain. She once claimed God had ruined her life, but now she sees him working quietly through the devotion of her daughter-in-law. The cold armor of Naomi's grief finally cracks at the mere mention of Boaz. Long-forgotten memories of better times, when her husband was respected in Bethlehem, spark a quiet warmth inside her. His name carries whispers of a past, before tragedy became her shadow. As Naomi begins to plan, we witness a fragile hope waking up. A woman who had completely written off tomorrow suddenly starts searching for a future. Her advice to Ruth reveals a heart brave enough to ask, maybe my story isn't over yet. Maybe restoration is still within reach. That fateful night becomes a silent vigil for Naomi. She once accused the heavens of crushing her, but now she is on her knees, begging for grace. Her prayers are heavy with desperate longing, risking another broken heart just for a second chance at living. Dawn arrives, bringing news that makes Naomi's heart race with a mixture of fear and pure anticipation. Hearing of Boaz's kindness sparks a warmth that has been missing for years. The tiny spark of faith she thought was dead begins to glow. Naomi tells Ruth to wait, but this is no longer the agonizing weight of despair. It is a soul learning how to hope again. She is no longer just surviving the dark. She is actively looking for the light. Her voice holds a strength she completely lacked before. Planning a wedding marks her ultimate emotional shift. The broken soul who once readied herself for the grave is now preparing to celebrate life. Hands that once hung heavy with grief are now busy with joy. The dark rituals of mourning are slowly replaced by plans for a future. The wedding vindicates Naomi before the whole town. The very neighbors who watched her crawl back in bitter defeat now cheer for her restored life. Their blessings honor more than just the young lovers. They celebrate a grandmother's healing. The grace poured over Ruth washes over Naomi too. As Ruth's belly grows, Naomi is reminded daily that she hasn't been abandoned. Every sign of this expanding new life whispers that the divine can create beauty from absolute nothingness. The broken woman who came home empty is finally preparing to hold abundance. Little Obed's birth completes Naomi's long journey back from the dark. Holding this newborn child, she carries the ultimate proof that her future has meaning. This baby is the physical answer to desperate prayers she gave up on long ago. The name the village chooses shows they know what this truly means. They call him Naomi's boy, not just Ruth's. It is an honest recognition that this child was given to do more than carry on a lineage. He was born to heal a shattered soul. Loving and raising this boy becomes her steady, quiet path back to wholeness. The simple work of feeding, comforting, and singing sweet lullabies slowly rebuilds the heart that grief had so brutally torn apart. Every little chore feels like sacred worship, every quiet moment a prayer of thanks. When she laughs again, the sound startles everyone around her. It is a sound thought to be dead, rising from deep within her. Beautiful music of joy finally drowns out the heavy silence of her sorrow, bringing her home back to life. The stories she shares with her grandson no longer taste of the bitter, hopeless grief she once carried. The hard trials she thought were curses now reveal themselves as steps toward a deeper blessing. Grace has completely rewritten the story of her survival. Her prayers show she finally sees the divine differently. The force she once feared as an enemy is now the architect of her redemption. Her words of gratitude hold the raw depth that only comes when you survive the dark and step into light. The new strength in her step shows her healing is physical too. The woman who dragged herself through the dark now walks with the effortless lightness of hope. Her straight back speaks of a reclaimed life. As she reunites with the women of Bethlehem, we see that her world is finally beautifully whole again. The deep isolation of grief finally breaks, making room for human connection. The neighbors who once pitied her now share her joy, and she is wrapped in the warmth of community once more. Suddenly, the future Naomi sees goes far beyond her own short years. A woman who saw only bitter endings now speaks of new beginnings. The baby she holds is more than just her own healing. He is the spark of a legacy that will echo for generations. Naomi, reclaiming her name, marks the final step of her healing. No longer calling herself Mara the bitter, she embraces her true name, Naomi, the pleasant one. Her dark grief has been sweetened by unexpected joy. The legacy she leaves is far greater than a family tree. Through young Obed, it is a living story of survival and hope. Her journey proves that even what is dead can be brought back to life. She left with nothing, yet she returned to find absolute abundance. This quiet, peaceful chapter of her life stands in beautiful contrast to the raw agony of her first return to Bethlehem. A woman who once believed she was utterly abandoned now rests in quiet comfort. Her final days are filled with the peace of a story made whole. Ruth's place in the line of Christ is profound. Israel's history flows like a steady river, carrying sacred promises down through the ages. Right in the middle of this sacred stream, the young Moabite woman who risked everything stands honored as an ancestor of the Messiah. It is pure grace. The ancient family tree of Jesus lists Ruth directly alongside other forgotten women like Tamar, Rahab, and Bathsheba. Each had a messy, complicated life of faith and failure, showing that hope still works through our deepest struggles and quiet courage. Putting her in the story shows a loving heart that welcomes anyone choosing trust over terror. The weight of her Moabite heritage finally makes sense when we look at the bigger picture. An old law that locked out Moabites for 10 entire generations is completely shattered by the one who tears down every wall. Her survival and acceptance prove that no outsider is ever truly beyond hope. The deep bond between Ruth and Boaz is a stunning picture of true unconditional love rescuing the broken. A lonely foreigner finding shelter under the wings of a new home mirrors every lost soul finding safety in the Savior. This protector who stepped up to save her points directly to the ultimate rescue story. Their newborn son holds the future seed of kings and the hope of saving the world. Little Obed's birth is not just about keeping a family name alive, it is the quiet rebuilding of a broken world. The infant who healed Naomi's weeping heart carries the seed of global restoration. This road from Ruth to King David leads straight to a Savior. Every single generation is built on the quiet, brave choices of those who survive the dark. Ruth's simple decision to stay loyal paved the path for a Savior. Her quiet life, built on loyalty, deep faith, and total humility, and her selfless love, point us directly toward the cross. a widow who abandoned her past to save her family, mirrors the one who gave up heaven for us. Her struggle is a beautiful echo of a much bigger rescue. Those dusty fields where she picked up scraps whisper of a great harvest yet to come. The simple barley that kept her alive points to the true bread of life meant to sustain us forever. Scraping by in dusty fields prepares us for the endless abundance we find in Him. That midnight meeting on the cold threshing floor is far more than a simple love story. When she steps forward in raw vulnerability, she shows us how a broken soul approaches a Savior in total trust. Her quiet plea for shelter is the same cry for safety we bring to our Redeemer. The open transaction at the city gates mirrors the very public rescue done on our behalf. The crowd watching it happen is like the whole universe witnessing our own rescue. Even the simple trading of a sandal shows power shifting from rigid rules to pure grace. The strong words of blessing spoken by the elders carry a weight that reaches all the way to her final descendant. The talk of mothers building a nation is fully realized in the one who builds an eternal home for all of us. This blessing goes far beyond a simple wedding promising hope to anyone who joins this family. Seeing this young widow transform from a lonely beggar to a cherished mother is exactly how we go from lost strangers to beloved children. Her long walk from the plains of Moab to the family line of Jesus proves that no one is ever too far gone to be brought home. In the end, her survival is our survival. Her very name, meaning companion, glows with a deeper meaning in this family tree. The widow who stayed loyal to an aging mother and became a bride to a good man reminds us of the Savior who calls us His friends and His beloved. Her name is a promise of real connection after total loss. Placing her story right between the dark chaos of Judges and the rise of kings in Samuel is no accident. It acts as a vital bridge from absolute lawlessness to a secure, lasting kingdom. Through her line, her own great-great-grandson David will rise to become a king whose throne stands forever. Her quiet goodness and integrity shine in the dark, pointing us to the ultimate goodness we find in Christ. She stood out like a bright light of loyalty in a very dark, compromised world. This foreigner who kept the law out of pure love shows us the one who would complete that law with his life. Her deep devotion to Naomi, her loyalty to Boaz, and her faith in a new God all mirror the vast love that drives our own rescue. Her willingness to lose everything is a beautiful picture of the love shown on the cross. Even the basic physical food in the fields tells us that hope is never truly dead. When we are stripped of everything, finding a protector reminds us that a safe future and complete care still exist. The tangible recovery she experienced points to a deeper, eternal hope. Can our own loyalty bring restoration when everything lies in ruins to our shattered lives, mirroring how ultimate sacrifice rebuilds our bond with the divine? Can an empty soul truly become full again? Can grace truly piece back together what pain and mistakes have shattered? That is the quiet promise behind her brave decision to step into the unknown. That single choice on a dusty road, made when all hope seemed dead, echoes across generations to remind us that our smallest acts of faith hold eternal meaning. Even when we lose it all, our broken path can join a grand design. Her legacy was not about being perfect, it was about holding on to hope. A grieving outsider standing in the ruins of her life, choosing to trust anyway, proves that rebuilding our lives is not about where we start, but where we place our faith. Hope is open to anyone who dares to believe. Can love rise from absolute ruin? Her journey ends by weaving these frayed, painful threads into a beautiful design of hope and redemption. A dark beginning of starvation and loss transforms into a harvest of joy, proving that dedicated love can reshape our absolute worst tragedies into moments of profound grace. When society leaves us behind, the deep love they shared breaks every barrier, creating a protective bond far stronger than mere bloodlines. They teach us that our strongest ties are forged in the fires of shared survival and deep commitment. Staying loyal when walking away is easier becomes the bedrock of every future blessing. It reveals a quiet pattern of redemption that refuses to leave the hopeless behind. Even when we are completely empty, a provider is quietly working in the desolate fields to bring us favor. This shows that even in our darkest hours, love is the hands and feet of a greater rescue. When lives are completely shattered, this healing power steps in to rebuild every single broken person from the ground up. A grieving widow becomes a cherished wife. An outsider becomes a mother of destiny. A bitter, empty soul turns toward joy, and a solitary protector steps forward to redeem them, proving that meaning is found in lifting others up. This selfless devotion mirrors a much larger promise that no matter how far we fall, an ultimate rescue is always waiting to bring us home, leaving everything familiar for love, paying a heavy personal price to protect others, and accepting kindness when you feel completely worthless. All these choices reveal a path to ultimate healing. This rescue breaks down every wall of culture, nationality, and prejudice that threatens to keep us isolated. An outcast foreigner finding a home and a future proves that grace has no borders. Reaching out to everyone left in the cold, it whispers that hope is meant for the entire world. When everything falls apart, a hidden timing is quietly orchestrating our recovery. The bitter hunger that forces them away. The tragic losses that leave them completely empty. The sudden harvest offering a fresh start. The arrival of a protector willing to bear the cost. Every dark moment aligns to bring us back to life. The pure joy at the end reminds us of what it feels like to be rescued. The cries of a newborn baby, laughter returning to a hollow soul, and a deep peace settling over a once broken home. This is the quiet beauty of love healing our pain. Her survival does not just save her own family, it sparks a legacy that alters the future forever. The little boy who heals his grandmother's broken heart will grow up to be the ancestor of royalty. A choice made in total darkness, on a lonely dirt road, echoes all the way to a Savior's birth. The quiet hope that kept them alive through tragedy is finally vindicated. The raw courage to choose a blank future over a familiar past, and the strength to return to a home filled with painful memories. The boldness to risk rejection for what is right. In the end, every single leap of faith was worth it. A watchful community becomes the hands of healing through open arms and blessings. The neighbors who celebrate a child's birth, the leaders standing witness at the city gate, and the town welcoming a broken outsider. They all play a part in rebuilding what was lost. Look at how hope works through the ordinary barley fields, quiet conversations, dusty gates, and simple family meals. Healing happens right where we live. Meaning unfolds quietly through daily chores, simple customs, local laws, and shared family moments. Grace infuses our mundane lives with deep significance. In the end, this rescue is complete, leaving no broken threads, no lingering bitterness, and no unresolved pain. A family once facing total erasure blooms with vibrant new life. Everything they lost is restored. The devotion that risked total defeat is richly rewarded, placing this journey right where we need it to understand true grace. Set between dark times of chaos and an uncertain future, this story proves that steady loyalty can pull order from confusion and build hope from total despair. The beauty of how this tale unfolds makes its promise of survival hit even harder. The rising tension, the crushing grief, and the slow, beautiful climb toward resolution. They all show the incredible power of healing love to transform our lives. These timeless themes of loyalty, survival, and deep sacrifice, grief, and ultimate recovery speak directly to the aching human heart across every single generation. This ancient tale of survival holds timeless truths for our own dark days, reminding us that even when everything is stripped away, we can still believe the future holds profound meaning. We rarely see the true weight of our choices when we're broken, yet we must choose love anyway. It shows us that hope rebuilt doesn't require us to see the end just to take the next faithful step. Can beauty really rise from our darkest ashes? The unexpected joy born from Ruth's grief says yes, love can rebuild. A journey that starts with 3 silent graves in Moab somehow ends with new life, turning bitter tears into joy. Choosing to love through our deepest ruins transforms tragedy. This story proves that a devotion rooted in healing can conquer any obstacle. It heals our wounds, turns an outsider into a mother, and transforms a grieving, bitter widow into a joyful grandmother. An honorable man stepping forward to protect them proves that love makes the impossible happen. In the end, the final word is mercy, not judgment. We find grace instead of condemnation, and a quiet hope instead of utter despair. When we sacrifice for one another, we invite new blessings to grow. This is why our darkest moments can become a new beginning. Not a closed door, but an opening. Not death, but a life fully restored and rich with meaning.